We're at 6 o'clock. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Directors of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District of the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado, will hold a regular meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 at 13919 West Utah Avenue, Lakewood, Colorado 80228. This meeting will be held for the purpose of conducting such business as may come before the board. This meeting is open to the public. Virtual meeting option for those who may not be able to attend in person. The district will offer the option of participating in this meeting by video/conference call. To attend, please go to https://us06web.zoom.us/j/895-332-25776 or call 669-900-6833 and enter meeting ID 895-3322-5776. To troubleshoot issues with connection at the time of the meeting, please follow the link https://forward/HC/EN-US-sections-200-305-593-troubleshooting. If you still experience issues, email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org and our IT staff will assist you as soon as possible. The district does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability in the provision of services. People with disabilities needing reasonable accommodation to attend or participate in a district board meeting can call 303-985-1581 or email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org for assistance. Please give notice as far in advance as possible so we can accommodate your request. We're going to start out with agenda item number 1, call to order, declaration of quorum. Jeff Baker here.
Todd Hooks here.
Karen Morgan here.
Alex Bucking here.
Dave Garner, remote.
Okay, we have all 5 directors in. We have a quorum. We will move on to agenda item number 2, directors matter, disclosure matters. Should I mention that email I got?
I don't know that that's necessarily a disclosures matter. I think maybe under directors matters later.
Okay, alrighty. We have no directors matters. I'll close out agenda item number 2, and we move to approval of additions to deletions from the agenda.
Since it's on my mind, can I ask, in the matter of agendas, do we need that disclosure on there every meeting? Can we take that off?
The director's disclosures?
Yes.
No, you don't need to have it there. You need to make the
You need to
disclosures
make
if
the
they're
disclosure,
already- Yeah, but it doesn't need to be an ongoing agenda item.
Okay.
It's fine to have it, but you could also take it off.
Do we like having that on there? Just for.
It doesn't take
placeholder?
but 10 seconds to say it.
Okay.
So I don't really care one way or the other. So do we have anything to add or delete? Okay, I'm going to close agenda item number 3, and we're going to move into public comment. Limit 5 minutes per person. For pass motion of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board of Directors, May 11th, 2021. Members of the public wishing to address the board during the public comment period are asked to keep the comments civil and related to the items in the agenda or to the conduct of the district business. Members of the public wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board to maintain proper decorum. Since Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board values your input, we always offer additional opportunities for the public to provide comments by using the district's email system or by phoning into customer service in the event they do not get on during the meeting during the period set aside for public comment. So I will open up public comment. We have nobody in the room. Do we have anybody online who wishes to speak?
So Dave Wickman.
Dave Wickman, you've been recognized by the board. Please unmute and speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I wanted to speak to the proposal to increase system development fees. I know you're going to be getting into a lot of details, and that's good. But before you get into the weeds, I'd like to take a big picture, 30,000 foot perspective. So I'm going to speak in some generalities. As you all are well aware, we've got aging pipes and facilities, and they're going to need replacing soon. And of course, we are constantly being bombarded with more demands with additional housing, for instance, like the 363 units coming on at Van Gordon, Alameda coming up, the Point Athletic Club, on and on and on. And so we're going to need money to make some replacements and enhancements and improvements. But we haven't really put away that enough money over the years. No fault of this board, of course, but over the years and decades, things get passed over, and so we're going to need some more money to handle those sort of replacements. But before getting into the obvious questions of do we have enough money? People tend to talk about averages and stuff like that. But I'm an economist, or a retired economist, and one of the concepts that's very fundamental to us is the concept of marginal. And the point is, on the edge is where things really make a difference. Of course, the old expression is the straw that broke the camel's back. Or in chemistry, you keep adding salt into the water and it keeps absorbing until you get to a saturation point. And then at that saturation point, you cross that one little line, and all of a sudden it's kind of like a disaster. So marginal is a very big deal. And I think we're at that point right now. And over the years, we've kept the system development fees relatively low. I mean, everybody in the industry has a tendency to do that to encourage development. But at this point, encouraging a little bit more development can kind of put us over the edge. And those of us in the community that are concerned about sustainability, we have to say, if we take on one more, could this make the whole system crash? And I think that's a very serious concern. And so right now, although you've made a lot of progress in the last year, you raised the system development fees and you brought in a lot of money. As a matter of fact, I think you brought in like almost a couple $1 million recently, and that really made a big difference. But inflation is going through the roof again. You saw 7.5% last month, and it's not going to get any better. I mean, as an economist, I see that just going through the roof over the next months and years. So I think you're making progress, but you're still behind the curve. I think you need to be increasing this more, and you might put some sort of automatic escalation factor in there that it goes up every year or whatever with inflation, so you don't always get into the situation about falling behind. And I think it's a good policy. If developers know that it's going to cost them some money, I think they're going to be a little bit more selective. And if they've got to put out some bucks, I think they'll be more likely to put in a good development, where if things are relatively cheap, they probably want to put in cheap developments. So anyway, in conclusion, I would hope that you would increase the system development fees far higher than they are now. And I would hope that you put in some sort of automatic inflation adjustment in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wickman. Do we have anybody else online wishing to speak? Raise your hand, please.
Director Baker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you. All right. Okay, gone. We're gonna close out agenda item number 4 and move into agenda item number 5. I'm going to motion to approve the February 3rd, 2022 special meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Director Plotkin. Discussion? No discussion. Call the vote. All in favor of approving the February 3 special meeting, say aye.
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 Got 5 ayes. So those minutes are passed. And then I'm going to motion for approval of the February 8, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Todd Hooks is the second. Discussion? No discussion. Call the vote. All in favor of approval of the lost my place, sorry.
Of the February 8th.
February 8th, 2022 regular meeting minutes, say aye. We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. Those pass or approved. So we'll have to sign, those are here somewhere, right? Or do we?
Yes.
Okay.
You should have clean copies there to sign. We have Sue Blair online now, so if we can, if once we're finished with this agenda item, we can insert the election item, I think, to the agenda.
Is that okay to just
Yeah.
flop it around? Okay. So we'll be signing these minutes. I'll be passing these around. We're going to be moving agenda item number 7 to in front of number 6 because we have Sue Blair from the Community Resource Services with an election update. Sue, you have the floor.
Good evening.
Hi, Sue.
Hello.
Hi. So just a brief update on the election. We did certify the ballot on Friday. We've got 1 candidate for a 1-year term, and we've got 5 candidates for 3-year terms. The ballots will actually be mailed out between April 11th and April 18th. There'll be a notice of election that would be published no later than April 13th. This is a mail ballot election, so all eligible electors within the district will receive a ballot. We have ordered our property owners lists and our voter registration lists from the counties. UOCAVA ballots, so those are for uniform and overseas electors. They go out by March 18th. And the information on the UOCAVA ballots is part of the clerk's voter registration list. And UOCAVAs can either be mailed, emailed, or faxed, depending on what the elector has requested. So that's kind of where we're at. We are using ES&S equipment again to actually do the counting for the election. So we should have unofficial results early the evening of May 3rd, Election Day.
Sounds good, Sue. We appreciate all the work you have done for us in the district as usual. So does anyone have any questions for Sue?
Yeah, so the ballot was certified means we know the official list of names and we can put those on the website here.
Yes, you can. So I can send that over and you'll have that. It'll be in the order they appear on the ballot.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. If you have any questions, you guys know where to find me, and I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you guys too.
Bye-bye.
I was amiss. I should have, I needed to introduce our new district manager. I should have done that at the top, but I get into this I was trying to beat the 6:30 thing. So that was kind of silly. Anyway, I want to introduce the new district manager of Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District, Jeff Tyus. We want to welcome him aboard. We have a great manager here. So I just want to thank you for everything.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Would you like to say anything or take a minute?
Well, yeah, just a minute. My wife always tells me I talk too much, so she told me not to talk too much on my new job. But I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. And I've been in the water and wastewater business for over 30 years, and this is the top of the field. So this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity to move into a district manager position. And Green Mountain's a beautiful community. I grew up the hill. My wife and I are both. My wife went to Bear Creek High School. I went to Evergreen High School. We used to, back in the early 80s, we used to play Green Mountain all sports. Evergreen did. So it's a beautiful area. And I getting to know the staff. You have a wonderful staff here that works very hard, very dedicated. And we hope that we could show our customers that we're here to serve them and make sure they have the best water quality they can get and no wastewater issues, and support the board, pass all the information on to the board so you can have all the information you need to make the right decision. So thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. All right, we did move the maintenance report up. So Austin, we're now at number 7, maintenance report. Austin, are you or Christian or Jeff or who's Austin?
I'm here.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
Good. How we doing out there?
We're still kicking, so that's good. Yes, update on the cellular endpoints. Had a meeting with Badger, went over all the locations that we can use those fixed networks. We're focusing on a couple of the locations that we have the most issues with right now with cellular service. So once those units come in, we have a couple sites, and we added one more that they did not have on their map. That should hopefully pick up another issue spot that we were having. Once those are up and working, we can utilize that fixed network and a drive-by system on these. So the current LTEs that we have that are kind of working in that area, they have already said that that's phasing out because it's part of that 3G that's getting dropped off. So they won't have any connection at all. So we're waiting for FT units to come in, the drive-by and or the fixed network. Once those come in, I think we actually have about 40 on stock right now, but we have 400 on order so that we can start moving those in and do drive-bys until we can get these units installed and get this network up and working, because we're probably going to have to utilize it in 1 or 2 other areas of the district. But we'll be able to assess that when we get to that point. Was notified by them that the MS units, which are multiple service ones that are supposed to work in these hard areas, they are currently making about 46 of them a month. So chip shortage issue is really hit hard on that area. So we are still kind of in that holding pattern of only swapping out units that are dead batteries, because we don't want to run ourselves out of product when we need it. So hopefully that improves here in the next few months. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, are you having any other supply chain issues? I'm sure you are, but is there anything we need to be aware of that's critical?
No, I've been trying to, that's kind of one thing I was going to talk with Jeff about is, not pushing too hard in repairs right now of things unless they absolutely need it, due to the fact of some stuff being pretty far out. I ordered some hydrants, and they're on a 6-month, 4 to 6 months. And that's basically his guess of getting those in. Parts for fire hydrants are 4 to 6 months out also. I actually just went and picked up a couple of their 6-inch extensions just to have a few extra in hand for Mueller's to raise them. But they are keeping up as well as like their core and mains ordering nonstop. It's just everything's pretty far out, but the major components, repair clamps, those kind of things, he said, are still pretty readily available. But I've been doing my best to keep up on kind of stock and as much as we can kind of hold in those crucial areas of stuff. So it is a concern of mine, but I'm trying to keep up with as much inventory as we can possibly have. We will use it, so it isn't going to go to waste. So
Thank you.
Yep. Jumping on to main breaks, just had a few of them. One was it was about 15 minutes. I have 0 hours of no service or low pressure, and then had one that was a little bit harder to find there and worked a little bit longer. That was only out of service, low water pressure for roughly about 3 hours. The hydrants, we operated all. We actually did about 100 extra over what was close to or right at the maintenance date. So we are currently up to standards in what needed to be operated within that yearly stipulation. So there's only a few more that will pop up here over the next few months, and we'll be able to work those in a lot smoother. And then the communication tower, we had in there that it was got a quote for about $8,000 and 12 hours to tear it down. Like I said, I thought that was kind of over the top, so we got a rental in and we're able to complete it in a couple hours and have that down, and just trying to finish up all the invoice stuff. The guy was out of town all last week, so hopefully this week here we can get that sorted out, and I think we might be maybe about 10 grand over what insurance covered, but I won't know that completely hopefully until the next meeting.
That's a great job. Jeff, can we start tracking like cost avoidance? Here we've got a deal where Austin had a quote for 8 grand and he was able to work this at a lot less. So I would like to see and publish this to the public, how when our staff is working at this level, these are the levels of proficiency we need to post and promote. We should have an all-up thing on a cost avoidance type deal. That would qualify for that for sure. So, and then I know Director Plotkin had brought up the Marshall Fire thing. So on the hydrants and going through the tests, we need to, probably keep that's in people's psyche right now, this whole Marshall Fire, that maybe we can post that on the website and let people know. Austin and the team went through and had verified operation of the hydrants, and we don't have any red areas, do we, with hydrants or anything?
Nope.
Right? Different animal. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. I want to keep track of these, top all the good things, plus these downtimes. I'm into this uptime downtime thing, and when they're able to keep people online, where I don't see there was no out of service. They just had zero out of service, low pressure for 0 hours, and then 3 hours. That's really an amazing thing too. So that's a credit to what the district's doing. So I'd like to see a metric of like the uptime and those kind of response things.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Sorry to keep interrupting. I'm just working with Jeff.
No, you're perfectly fine.
I want to keep track of these good things you all are doing. So, okay, go ahead.
That actually concludes it. So if you guys have any questions you need me to answer, feel free to shoot them out.
So to that point, Sam and Jesse, I noticed that you had posted the fire danger information. Maybe that page can kind of start growing over time, specifically related to this topic, what is the district doing about it kind of thing? And semi-real time updates on that page. People might start using that as a resource in the community, hopefully. Yeah. So, and I appreciate you and Jesse starting that up. So,
and
thank you.
Any input from the board as to things you'd like to see on there? We don't really have anybody creating content.
Okay.
We're actively looking for those type of things.
Okay.
So any input from you guys is always appreciated.
Yeah, I don't know if that page will allow you to do like is there any way to just, I didn't notice that there were any parameters for the URL that you punch in and just zoom in on Green Mountain. So I guess you have to repost the screen capture. So that's kind of.
Yeah, so I did the link, but that link just pulls
Yeah.
up all Colorado. It doesn't allow you to dial it in. So I did the screen caps and the link.
Yeah, appreciate that. So thanks.
Hey, Sam, Jesse, does Jeff have access to a laptop, or do we have a laptop for him or a tablet?
So we've got, for in here,
Yeah, well, yeah,
I've started setting up a laptop for him.
Okay.
And get it switched over.
Okay.
To his desktop.
great, thanks. Austin, thank you so much. Thank you for doing that great service and saving the district money.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, any questions for Austin? Okay, I'm going to close out maintenance report, which is agenda item 7, and we will move to agenda item 8, engineering matters. Terry, you're on deck.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, thank you.
Very good. First item is the capital improvements. As you know, we've been working with American West, negotiating, their bid prices, and we reached a fairly good agreement. I worked with Dylan to prepare a notice of award, which is just slightly different from the boilerplate notice of award because it recognizes the negotiated bid after they're received. There is one wrinkle I wanted to bring up. We were hoping to have bypass, there's some bypassing costs that they asterisked in their pricing, and it was legitimate. Green Mountain did not have this information for these connecting sewers. Bear Creek Water and Sanitation did. They have not completed pricing that. So I would assume the board might like to hold issuing the award till we have that final pricing. Their pricing so far, we've vetted that with Bear Creek Water and Sanitation District, their engineers. They're comfortable with the pricing as negotiated. They're on board to go ahead. We revisited with Jeff Bradley at the golf course, and he's still on board. He would like the work around the golf course itself to take place later in the year, say September or so, not in the peak golf season. So they'll probably jump back and forth on the reaches of sewer that they will work on to accommodate Jeff's request. But so other than that little bit of pricing, and again, I would assume the board would like to see those final numbers from them on that bypass pumping. It took longer to get the drawings and the information from Bear Creek, and contractor hasn't quite priced it. I talked to him today and he doesn't quite have it together.
Yeah, I'll hold off on signing the notice of award then, which
Yes.
is right here.
Is that something that can be done? Do we need to revisit this at the next meeting, or can this be signed, 2 weeks from now if the information comes in and it's semi?
Terry, what do you think that difference is gonna be?
I don't have a hard number, Dylan, but they have 3 to 4 lateral sewers that they needed to get information on. And again, that Bear Creek had, Green Mountain's mapping does not have that information. We provided that to them, and if I had to guess, it'd be in the range of 5 or 10% of the contract.
Okay, do you think you'll have that by the 22nd, for example?
The 22nd, I think we could. I can talk to the contractor and confirm. As because we've been talking and how this works, Dylan, we would be issuing a change order number 1 concurrent with the agreement. So there's time to revisit that and make sure that price is good. And I see no reason that the board couldn't approve the award, between meetings to get things going.
Okay, yeah, I'd recommend that the board not execute it, given the disparity in value.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait then.
Okay, so would that be wait till the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. The red zone tank, Kablaco got back. You saw that in the report. A direct quote from him is they are going to take a few additional samples, it sounds like, so they can do some of their own testing on the side. He sent me an email. We've had conversations. He said he knows time is of the essence, so they're working quickly, and he expects to have a final decision as well as a timeline the middle of this week. So I'm hoping to hear from him tomorrow or Thursday. Once they get in and do the samples, the schedule is removing the lining so the staff can put the tank back in service.
How long is that gonna take?
To remove the lining,
Yeah, what's their estimated time?
that's the schedule he's referring to. He did not give a time frame, but I would think somewhere in the order of a week or so, a week or two. They got to set up scaffolding. A lot of that lining will come right off easily. The adhered lining, they'll have to work it a little bit to remove it, but I wouldn't think it'd be more than a week or two.
How long does it take to decontaminate it and test, and before we get this back online, what's the estimated?
That's a matter of a day or two. The district staff has always done their own disinfection of the tanks. They're well equipped to do that. And again, as you were touching on earlier, Jeff, they take on a lot of this effort, which saves the district money. But they go ahead and disinfect the tank as soon as that lining is out and fill it with water. They have to wait for the bacterial test, the BACT test. And once those results are in, they put it into service. So it's usually no more than a couple of days.
Okay. That would be another, if we got our staff doing it, we have a cost avoidance there. So whatever the in lieu of Cablacos doing that or whatever. So
When we disinfect a tank, we follow American Water Works Association standards of disinfecting tanks very specifically. And we send the BACT samples, total call for samples, to a state certified lab that we were protecting our customers. It is a big deal. Plus, we can't have any taste and odor in the tank left over from removing any type of epoxy.
Well, has there been like anything proposed if we remove it, since it was not functioning, as to us getting a refund?
Well, that's still, their plan right now is, at least they read the report. He seems to understand the report, but they want to at least try to defend their position if they can, hence wanting to do a little bit of additional analysis. He understood the report. He thought it was well written, but of course they think maybe the moisture issue or the atmospheric or environmental issues may weigh in there. So
I think we make that demand after they've taken their samples and see what their response is. Once they tie themselves to taking samples, we're gonna do our own analysis.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't want to spend $1.2 million for nothing.
Yeah.
well, and then, we need to be aware of if there's a reset on warranty time, or whatever. So these are the kind of things that sometimes fall through the cracks, or we did it during this time frame, and then during this entire time frame it's a warranty period, and we really haven't taken possession of the thing in my sense, or shouldn't be. It's not a commissioned piece of infrastructure, so it's failed. So I think that the time around the warranty is zero for me right now.
Yeah, and luckily the district did make the bond claim right at the very beginning, well within the necessary time. So the bond is still available out there for district's recovery.
Okay.
At this point, we know that 2 people were in that plane and seeing.
Okay, Terry.
okay. West Exposition development. As I said in the report, they've received Denver Water's approval for, again, the same plans. They just had, the approval had expired. I did note too, there was some discussion at the last meeting about, capacity of the sewer, and that sewer currently, isn't flowing full. And from the model, we put numbers in the report. We use a criteria of 70% of depth. City and County of Denver, Colorado Department of Health, and in my experience, the majority of jurisdictions use 80% of depth. We like to be more conservative. The existing flows, the depth is measured at 0.777, so less than the 0.8. with the 29 single-family residences added, they are at 0.81. And I make a note, you know, there's a lot of that district, that's some of the oldest areas of the district, a lot of clay pipe, clay service lines, and undoubtedly some infiltration occurs in some areas. This is all new PVC pipe. These are all low water using fixtures. So actually the unit flow per single family residence should be quite a bit less than the average house in this area. And again, based on discussion at the last couple meetings, I wanted to present some of this information because it was brought up by the board. I think I mentioned last time too, when this was initially given the go-ahead by previous staff and board to proceed, we did cursory measurements at that time or evaluation of capacity. And we had staff go out and they did some manual measurements to check depth of flow. And their conclusion was that they didn't see evidence of capacity issues in the sewer. Now, that's the snapshot in time when they do that. You know, it's not continuous monitoring. But based on all of that information, the development was given the go-ahead, and actually the plans were approved previously and signed by Adrian. That they would be constructing those, and probably they would have all the infrastructure in and houses going up if they had proceeded at that time. For whatever reason the delay was, we don't know. Financial, we don't know. But you know, they simply came back in with the same design to get them reapproved. So present that for the board, and if they'll consider approving the plans.
Well, we need to discuss that. So we talked about a 0.7 position. We're at 0.777. And with the additional 29 homes, we moved to a 0.81. So where do we keep moving the line? That's like, Terry, that's the problem we're having here is, you know, there needs to be a hard line on these capacities. Red means red, or you know, orange or yellow, but we're at red. This is red. So we're letting something continue to slide, and I'm not comfortable with that because, you know, if you do for one, you do for a lot, and we're setting a precedence. And it's like, at what point do we say, okay, you're triggering something here, and I'll just let the board talk on this right now. That's my opinion of it. That's my perception.
Well, not only that, the other thing we've been asking for is kind of what's the effect down the line, literally, right? So we still don't have good, I don't at least gather that we have modeling insight to where we say a trunk is at 0.8, what does it do to the main line, you know, down a ways, and to the, you know, other parts of the district. That's been a concern as well. And, you know, while County of Denver or whatever, maybe it's 0.8, we also have, as was noted earlier, very aged infrastructure. And I am not per se, you know, an engineer with specialty in this area, but I would think that's what I've been talking about with the safety factors. You know, how much room do we actually need to give ourselves in case, you know, no pun intended, shit happens. So, and I still haven't gotten a very good, solid 100% answer to that as well. So I would be concerned about crossing those lines personally.
So my question, not really being familiar with this, what would bring that capacity down to 0.7? Larger piping going in, less housing? What would force the number down to make it acceptable?
I'm gonna ask if Kristen's still on the line. It was my understanding after talking to her that it would be, maybe the slope of the pipe would be a key element of that for this one. Is that correct, Kristen?
I'm not sure if this is an area of slope issue.
You provided the schematic for this, isn't this the connection at Kipling? It was a line at depth.
Yeah, we provided the profiles in that summary memo. I don't remember which of the 7 issues specifically called out slope. Terry may have a recollection if this was one or not.
I do not recall that this had a slope issue, Kristen. There were a number of reaches that did have slope issues. I don't recall that this was one of them, but I can readily check that and confirm that for you. Just, you know, there are quite a few reaches of sewer, and I don't remember off the top of my head. But I thought this one was okay.
So I'm still trying to grasp what brings down these numbers. I mean, what is it that makes them actually where they should be?
Well, it would be a larger pipe,
Okay.
or you can do improvements to the system. So again, we go to the clay pipe. The district has been, they've undertaken a lining program. They've done a number of years of it. So they go in and they do, you know, the in situ form type lining, and they also line the service connections, you know, with the joint. A common place for infiltration into the sewers is where they made the tap. A lot of times in the old days, you know, the taps, they weren't that careful about them. In fact, there's a joke about, you know, tap by ball peen hammer.
Right.
And, you know, those can all be corrected, and that I think we're into maybe the 5th year of them lining those pipes. And as they line those, the flows come down. We've actually seen since 1986, or in the 1980s, when there was a lot of infiltration in the district, quite a significant reduction in flow over the years per single family house. So they've been continually reducing. In the older part of the district, the lining and repair of sewers that they find can take care of it.
Are we lining these as part of regular maintenance, or are we lining these in anticipation of increased usage?
It's primarily been driven by maintenance. To reduce infiltration, they get roots, the joints in clay pipe, and those taps, again, the taps by hammer, or where they're, you know, they're open gaps. You get a lot of roots in there, so their maintenance is impacted. They have areas where they go back more frequently than others to cut out roots because they continue to be a problem in those areas. So they've been driven mostly by maintenance, lining these pipes and reducing infiltration. There's also a financial component. Part of your fee from Metro wastewater is, of course, the flow. That's a big one. It also does strength, BOD, total solids, and total Keldol nitrogen. But if you reduce the flow, you are saving there are potential savings from the Metro charges.
Okay. So I guess in my simple world, if a person is wanting to develop this, is this the cost of Green Mountain Water to bear, or is this the cost of a developer to bear to have a viable system?
It seems like that's, are you asking, are you asking?
Anybody?
Okay.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. I can give you an opinion based on, you know, working with many municipalities and hundreds of municipalities and special districts over the years. If you have an area that was developed and developers put in all the pipes originally, So they were paid for by developers. The maintenance then is usually undertaken, and this is very typical in rate theory. Then the users, the district takes care of replacements over time. Now you get a case where a change in land use and a large development comes in like we're beginning to see. And if they create an issue with capacity, then the developer pays. And this is mostly single family predominantly, a little bit of commercial here and there, but predominantly single family homes, very old, and they've been there for a long, long time.
I'm just trying to make sure the developers pay their fair share.
Well, if I'm hearing what Terry is saying, and that was my understanding too, that all plays into what the capacity is. So if we have the capacity and the developer from before, we have excess capacity, then they can buy into that capacity.
But if we're at red,
But if we're at red, and we now know that, which is different than when they came to us before and we didn't have a current master plan.
right,
And now we know that we're at, Terry says 0.77, but even if we want to go with the 0.8, we're going to be over that at 0.81. Maybe they'll be, let's say, maybe we'll be right at it with modern technology and it'll be great. But I think we have been using that 0.7 standard for a while. I don't see any reason to change that. And if we're going to be over that anyway, it seems to be a moot point. We don't have the capacity for this, and they would need to pay for upsizing the pipe.
I mean, personally, I would rather have it be the lower, more, to me, it's safer to have it lower.
Safety factor.
Right, because if with fires, with all these things that have been happening, I certainly don't want our system running at capacity. And when there's a failure, it's a big failure. I mean, I would far rather have there be it running at a normal, not an orange or like it green, if possible, so that we truly, I mean, have the ability, should something happen, to take care of it.
Well, my concern is if we are at 0.7 as a standard, we're running at 0.777. With these 29 additional units, we moved to 0.81, which puts us 1/10 over the line, even with Denver. At what point does this trigger something? That's where I'm not comfortable with a fuzzy logic type thing, like, well, where are we?
Well, I think we
we're
should
right on the
stick
edge.
with our original standard. I mean, if that was the standard, we need to adhere to a standard. And given what's happening as far as just the amount of development that's going on, I certainly do not want to risk an aging infrastructure by putting more and more pressure on it. To me, less pressure makes more sense than more pressure.
Well, it's less pressure. It's in, like he was talking about, your flow rates, right? Or that how your flow rate works at that level. I believe that would be a cheaper charge from Metro Waste, right? Or was it velocity or just gallons?
Yeah, so yeah, Terry knows, he'll tell you, but it's gravity flow. So they're just measuring the depth of flow, and the data would show we'd have to, based on like WEF standards, Water Environment Federation, we'd go out there at a certain time, and they might have done this, like Terry mentioned in the conversation, the field, techs would go out at a certain time and measure that depth, and then they would run a camera down the line to make sure to check for infiltration, like Terry was talking about.
Mhm.
So if there's no infiltration and the depth is true, and then like Karen was talking about, the slope is good and it's still at 0.7, then it's at capacity because the slope is correct. Because what you're doing is, Terry knows, is you're removing you have to run wastewater at a certain gravity flow to keep everything moving.
Correct.
So if everything's correct, where there's no infiltration, which we check with the camera, and we get out there, like Terry said, we're only taking one sample, but we get out there at peak. Peak is usually around 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. when people are at home, and measure that. And, you know, statistics show if you do that 30 times, you usually get a population, pretty representative population sample. Then we give you more data to show, okay, maybe infiltration isn't the problem. And maybe the slope is good, infiltration is not a problem, and we're really at above the standard. Then like Jerry said, we could look at larger diameter pipe and maybe pass that cost on, because, you know, right now all sewer systems are being made out of PVC pipe, which isn't too expensive anymore. So that's an option. So,
Well,
but they might have generated this data before in the past.
so has this been approved at these higher levels? Or was
Well,
it
so
approved at
that's
lower
where
levels?
Dylan, I don't understand. So back in 2018, Hannigan was the president. She signed this. That's a snapshot in time. Now we're supposed to sign it today. Where are we at on some legal footing with this?
Well, I'm not entirely clear why it's taken the years.
4 years?
Yeah, does anyone know why it's back here, or why nothing ever happened?
No, I know that whatever 2 board meetings ago, we actually wanted to ask for an extension of time. I don't know, they keep asking for extension of time. So it's been more their delay. I mean, we're 4 years later. And to Director Morgan's point, now that we understand, we've done the work, done the capacity studies, and we're showing that we're red. And this is I'm not comfortable with fuzzy logic. Like if we have a standard, we stick with the standard. And I'm not okay with, if I make an exception, if the board makes an exception for one group, they'd have to do it for everybody.
Yeah,
What's the criteria now?
right. What's the basis of the 0.7 number?
It's the flow in the pipe.
Right, no, I understand what it is, but what's that?
What we put in from the input from the district management side is whenever you get a sewer that's flowing wastewater, you run the risk of what's called an SSO. You guys probably heard of that term, SSO, sanitary sewer overflow. And a sanitary sewer overflow is a violation of the Clean Water Act. And so if you get an SSO, you have to notify the Colorado Department of Health within 24 hours and then prove to the Colorado Department of Health that you're doing everything to clean it up, because wastewater is hazardous. So that's why you don't want to run sewer pipes at a very high flow, like you're talking about in case of emergency. If you have a bunch of something going in the sewer, you got to have that capacity so it doesn't pop a manhole off, which does happen. SSOs do happen. So that's why
Is that an allowable reason for us to require the previous standard?
Well, no, you just stick to, in my opinion, we have standards and laws and rules for a reason.
Yeah.
And you don't flex, you don't change.
Well, I agree, but what
Even
I'm
if-
asking is if there was an agreement, do we have to adhere to that? Or can we actually hold them to the original standard?
Well, and what I was driving at is what is the authoritative nature of the 0.7 number? Is that part of the district's mechanical specs and rules and regs? Was that just a preference imposed on the design of the wastewater master plan? Or is that a formal policy essentially?
Dylan, it's not a formal policy that I'm aware of. And again, it's published in the Department of Health, again, City and County of Denver, many jurisdictions have published numbers. The 0.8 of depth is very common, and it's an accepted design criteria. Again, we've gone to the 0.7 because we like it to be more conservative, and it just flags a sewer later. We stayed in, so we have adopted that as a company to be slightly more conservative. It's not a district adoption. It's our preference to be a little more conservative, and it flags a sewer sooner and gives more time for response when you know that.
Oh, and I'll just add a couple of comments here at this point. We talked about the clay pipes and being subject to infiltration contributing to the flows in this zone. We've been working on, we don't have ready to pull up at this meeting, but I was able to find on my screen the infrastructure replacement plan shows that there are 2 large stretches and a couple of other stretches of sewer that are on the replacement plan to be lined in this area. And so those would be contributing factors that the district is already planning and scheduling to mitigate I&I in that region, which would be contributing to the flows at 0.777 currently. The other comment I would add is we just recently had a presentation by R.H. Borden demonstrating or talking about a sewer inspection tool that is now approved by the CSD pool. And they take equipment out and listen to manholes and leapfrog through the system to listen. And they talked about they don't flag or score points against a segment unless it's running at 90%, or they start to flag it at 90% full. So there's some room in that criteria, and like Terry said, they've selected 0.7 to be conservative to flag things sooner, but it gives you time to address those things. And so that would be, you know, in the time of the IRP, the infrastructure replacement plan, when you have several segments that have been identified to line in this area as well, that the district is aware of those areas and working to mitigate those issues.
I guess my question would be, I've seen some municipalities flat out publish 0.75, some publish 0.8. So again, then the question would be, how did they come to that as their officially posted number? And you know, what's the basis for their thinking, and also what's the intersection of, say, engineering versus policy? Because again, in light of the recent events, I think it's our fiduciary duty to also consider what if stuff happens. You know, how much overhead do we want to have?
We talked with Jeff yesterday, you know, at his onboarding. So, you know, one of his suggestions, and, you know, we have our rules and regulations and et cetera, but we may need to incorporate a engineering standards, adopt them into the rules and regulations. But right now it's our call. And, you know, I'm kind of sensing, I'm just telling you my opinion on this. I'm not comfortable with it at this point.
Yeah, so just to cut right to it, I think the district is on firm footing to require modification of the drawings as it's a resubmittal. 2 years have passed, 4 years have passed. That's a significant amount of time. Circumstances have changed on the ground. If it were the difference between the plans previously would not have caused that area to exceed 0.7 and now they do, and that would, I would consider the district on less firm footing then, because the 0.7 is not apparently a district policy. The 0.8 though, if that's a more industry-wide standard, and this is going to now push this portion of the infrastructure beyond 0.8, I think that provides the firm footing, even if you didn't already have the discretion to do that. So I think if you want to send it out for resubmittal or modification, that would be fine.
Do we need a motion for that?
I would offer, I would like to add, Dylan, to your comment, make sure I understand it clearly. It's not the size of their pipes. Their plans have been reviewed and have not changed, and their pipe sizes are all adequate. It's the existing pipe in Kipling Street, you know, downstream. It's a short reach, one reach of pipe, I think, that has a little bit of capacity issue. And the rest of Kipling is, if I remember correctly, is all in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I gathered that, and I, my opinion remains the same, that the development, the circumstances surrounding the development have changed, even though the circumstances of the development have not.
Mm-hmm.
So why, just another question is, why do they need an extension from us if it's all okay?
Of time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The simple reason there,
Asking for an extension of time.
No, I think they wanted it done like 2 months ago. They wanted a special meeting to get it done faster.
Are you associated with the project? Okay, I think it would be beneficial probably to hear from you then.
Sure.
Well, let's wait until Jeff comes back.
Absolutely. Thanks. I just don't wanna.
Sure, thank you.
I have kind of a related question. Dylan, do you work with any districts that have subdivisions or sub-districts?
Yeah,
I would say that since we're really talking here about an area that's predominantly clay pipe, that we ought to think about whether or not it's appropriate to designate sub areas of Green Mountain Water so that we could adequately charge developers for real costs specific to their area of development. For example, I would expect that right now we could go up to 0.9 on Union because of all the work that was put in there on Union Boulevard corridor, and have minimal effect over the near term. Longer term, of course, it's a bigger deal. But for Kipling, with the clay pipe and the condition of the existing sewer in Kipling, it would sort of make sense to look at the effect of increased flow on the whole system. And the likelihood that, at least internally inside the district, this is the greatest area for development that still is on our map.
just to address that briefly, I think that might be a good suggestion to run by Raftellus. Rather than going through the hassle of creating sub-districts, you could have them identify discrete regions of the district that are appropriately, that the SDFs are appropriately altered to reflect the capacity issues that exist in those. You know, they sort of spitballed 2 or 3 different divisions of the district, but I think you could get more granular than that. And I just, yeah, so the district's already doing some of that work. Sub-districts might be a more complicated solution to that than necessary.
Yeah, we're really not talking about 29 units, 29 new residences on Exposition. We're talking about that whole area of clay pipe in that part of our district. And so we need to think, we need some forward thinking that doesn't, not intended to punish this developer in any way, but to protect our resources, recognizing that clay pipes aren't going to be there forever, and we're going to have to continue to work on that. And there's no reason that new developers in the area shouldn't contribute significantly to that, or proportionally to that, I should say.
I think it'd be okay if you wanted to solicit limited public comment from.
Yeah, I want to ask the board, so we have the Exposition developer in here. I want to ask the board if it's okay for him to speak.
I think it's only fair.
Yeah, you have the floor.
Yep.
And why don't you come up here where everyone can hear you if you wouldn't mind. Grab a seat there.
Thanks for responding to my invitation to come.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. My name's Brett Blank, and I'm with America Homes. We're the owners of the property and the developers. I'm the land developer portion of that company, civil engineer, and here in Colorado, been developing for 30 years. So appreciate you allowing me to speak. I know it's a little off kilter. So I can answer some of the questions, some I can't, and I apologize. The first one that I can't answer is what happened in 2018 till we purchased the property. So we purchased it and we're going forward with the plan. I know one of the items I don't have in front of me that I know we'll talk to our council about is, you know, when the will serve letters and how all that worked. But we went forward with the same plan that was originally done. The reason it didn't get built in the last 6 months was we ran into rock. And so there was excavation problems and we had to do a redesign of the foundations to make sure the utility plans still all worked. So at the end of the day, all the utilities remained exactly the same. So sanitary, flows, homes, the rest, everything else remains exactly the same. So that's why we're here today. I apologize for if someone came in a couple months ago looking for a delay. We were actually trying to go as fast as we could. So we're trying to get that installed. So there's nothing holding us back. where we have 74,000 homes that we either purchased or we build, and we build the homes for ourselves. They work to supplement the price gap between those who can afford a new home and those who can rent. So that's the goal of what we do, that we create communities all over the country. So I'm here to answer any questions, but hopefully that kind of sums up where we came from. Same plan, same utilities, and we tried to get the Denver utilities as soon as we could.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You might stick around.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. You have a place at the table here.
Thank you very much.
Well, what makes sense to me is that we talked to you about doing, I am assuming it's an upsizing of that pipe so that we can accommodate that development there, so that we don't go over our safety limits. It's a big, I'm looking at our spreadsheet, and I could be looking at the wrong thing. The South Kipling Street is identified on here. It's a large segment. Well, it says almost 700 linear feet, 8-inch pipe. They're costing that out at $200,000 right now. It seems like it would be we would need to do that for a development to go through and still even go with the 0.8 from the development, let alone the 0.7 we have been doing from Denver, let alone the 0.7 that we have been doing. That's going to take some time to work out the details and what would make sense for both of us, because we are over already, so there's room to negotiate on these things. But does that make sense to anybody else on board that we go that route and talk about doing some kind of cost sharing on that pipe?
Well, we gotta be
Figure that
moving
out.
forward. I mean, we're obviously at a crossroads, and
Right.
we've had something we signed on 4 years ago. It's just we're kind of in a little bit of an angle here that I'm not comfortable with. So I'm just trying to figure out the best way forward. So, yes.
How much room would we? To me, this is an area where Mr. Tice could step in and talk in future and work out details. Is that?
He's in day 2.
I know.
He's not even been on the ground 48 hours.
We're about ready to shoot you out of the
Welcome
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Oh, well, don't worry, we'll review a lot of standards come from in wastewater through the Water and Environment Federation. They set standards, like in drinking water comes from the American Water Works Association. So, we can track down, the standard of 0.7 or 0.8, and then if they're, design standards from the Colorado Department of Health, we can look at those standards too. And then we could go back and do more research on if there's how much infiltration in that pipe. And then as Kristen said, this sound device coming in puts these sound waves through a pipe and it gives you a score, it's called a sewer rat. We had it at Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Authority. So you would create these graphs where it'll show the higher flow areas by score. So it'd be instantaneously to see, okay, if this is a hot spot, like Alex was talking about, if the trunk line is flowing into the main line, and then we put the sewer rat in there, and then we show, oh, the main line could be a problem or not if it goes this higher in the trunk line. So we generate more data. So we can the staff at Green Mountain could generate a lot more data if you need it to make those decisions on if it's, the variables in the equation are, just like everybody talked about, is it a diameter of pipe issue? Is it an infiltration issue? Or is it a slope issue? Or is it a clogging issue? So we could and to solve all those issues is larger diameter pipe. That would solve all the issues.
How does sounding the pipe account for understanding slope? How would you?
Well, the sounding of the pipe is just determining
The capacity.
if it's flowing at a certain score, flowing at a certain rate. If it's not clogged, if you're really the sewer rats there to say, okay, you could have a clog in the system. So if it's backing up, so if the level's coming up and it is because of infiltration, it will give you a score of, 1 being a good score and 6 being a higher score. It could be plugging up, like Kristen was saying, it goes up to 0.9, but it's just a quick and easy, it's a quick and easy tool. It's a lot quicker than running a camera. Because you put one, it's a sound device that you pop a manhole, you stick it in there, it puts this sound wave sounds like a Bose system, and it's really loud. The customers will notice it. And it goes through the pipe and it goes through the receiver on the next manhole down. So you just keep leapfrogging the manholes.
We have them scheduled for a demo on 15th. Maybe we could demo that area.
Well, that would be great.
Could we, or get them in here sooner? Because I know you're up against your construction.
I was just
things
gonna
and-
say, it's very kind of you to come in like this.
Thank you
Sorry,
for
I was looking at that. I'm not totally-
So why don't we take that as an action
So,
item?
but in the interest of time and just kind of to be fair, yeah, how can we make something actionable out of this? Because this is kind of a learning experience for us as well, because to Director Morgan's point, we've gotten new information. Well, it's been a little while since the last time this went through, so this is just kind of a learning experience for all of us, real time.
Because no matter what the issue is,
Yeah.
there's an issue.
So how do
So
we,
Well,
what's
this
the
will
action
give
items
us,
can we take?
this will
out
give
of
us a
this?
better data point, I believe. And then,
And what timeline can we at least propose tentatively to have some sort of working thing going forward?
well, so they're talking the 15th, so that's, 7 days from now. We'll have that data point, and then that would give us a better realistic understanding of the capacity on that line, right? They'll be measuring this at the high flow date points.
Yes, I'd get with Austin and probably see if we could go out like at 7 to 8 a.m. in the morning when people are home, taking showers, using everything, and then see if we can leapfrog a bunch of those manholes in that area to see how far, see what the flow is, and visually inspect it too. So we'll take a visual, use a sewer rat, and then move on down the lines and see if it drops or maybe it's not, maybe it's low. I mean, we'll give you more data.
So out of a 7-day work or 7-day week, is the highest capacity on the weekend or during the weekdays?
Well, the time frame where everybody's getting, going to school and getting to work, it's in the morning on weekdays. Whereas weekends, it's chaotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll take a weekday number and, if we can move that as soon as possible. Get that done.
Terry, can you send me the will serve, the original will serve letter and associated documents? Or are those on the OneDrive here, do you think?
I think the district issued the will serve, but I'll look for that and reach out to them. For this type of development, they've typically been adding language to City of Lakewood document for service, because City of Lakewood has the will serve information on there, but of course they're not the jurisdiction for water and sewer. And so the district signs off on that and puts some language in that will serve. But yes, I can get you some of the background documentation, and I think Doug will probably have that will serve.
Isn't our will serve letters in the director's folders in OneDrive somewhere?
I don't think we have explicit will serve letters for inside the district. That's what is that what where we tap onto somebody else's language there, Terry, because we only do the will serve for outside the district.
Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah, the formal will serves are for outside the district, exactly. It's availability of service in district. Just saying that, yes, service is available. Yeah, I'll pull that stuff together for you, Dylan.
Thank you.
Okay. We're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern then, if you're.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And so for us, our goal obviously is to move ahead. We don't think with everything improved on our plan, so everything property line in, we don't think is going to change. So, and I'm just throwing out options as you're going to go forward and take a look at it. So being able, by the time we tie into the system and activate it, we're still talking, we're 6-8 months down the road. So there'll be a lot more data and everything by then. So as you look at options, if one of those options might happen to be, foot stomping this one, maybe that we could go forward with our project on the site and not be able to tie in or not be able to whatever, or be able to come to some agreement on what that looks like. That would help us. So that would help us.
Yeah, we don't want to hold yet. I mean, we'll
Understood.
we'll expedite this. So just to give us some better metrics, or better data. So I appreciate you coming in. And
Awesome. Thank you.
any other questions at this point?
Do you want to grab contact information or just leave it, Mr. Taya, just to, yeah.
Yeah, covered.
I don't.
Okay, you're just.
You actually don't print us cards.
I love cards.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, I hope I make it till next month to see.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
We at least can assure you tomorrow, Jeff.
Oh, thanks.
That's correct.
What's your Twitter handle?
Stick around to the 15th.
Yeah.
That would be great for me. That's
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh,
for your time.
thank you.
Thank you for
taking
coming
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm taking, I guess, the solution is we're going to delay it, get a solution. Look for that, right?
It's going to give us a better realistic perspective. Everything's theoretical at this point.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
No worries, thank you.
We can find
You don't
out.
even stick around.
Unless you want to.
That's exciting stuff.
Yes.
You're smarter than the rest of us. Okay. All right, Terry, I guess you're on to item D.
Yeah, and before I get to that, Jeff, I had flow monitoring in the report. I mentioned last month that we were reaching out to Ted Miller and Associates. That was recommended for a lot of these reaches in the master plan. He got us preliminary cost information, and this would be for 3 months of flow monitoring, them installing meters. It includes the lease cost, them installing it, them downloading data every month, and taking care of issues if the meter gets clogged or there are any issues with it, installing, removing it. And the budget he came up with, it was approximately $35,000 for 3 months. And he had 7 sites. I don't know that 7 sites are necessary. We would refine that. He wanted to get a preliminary number to the board so that if you wanted to refine it, he would put something together for you, a formal proposal.
I think it's around the Weir Gulch and Union Corridor I think we really have 2 areas we're focused on right now. Hello?
Yes. It can be any number you select. We were just going initially by those areas identified as having capacity issues in the master plan. And there were 6 or 7 that were identified for flow monitoring.
Okay. Thoughts?
I was gathering that you didn't like flow monitoring. You want to go ahead with any? What do you think?
Well, I honestly, my issues with talked with Jeff about this yesterday. My experience with them, I'm not real happy with them. I mean, they can be it's a regulatory thing for some people, and you have to keep them calibrated. They go offline all the, there seems to be issues with them. I don't know what my confidence level is with them. Kind of like in the sewer rat thing. Is that what it's called, sewer rat?
Yeah, sewer rat.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds like a lot cheaper option.
Well, it almost sounds like you have your, I don't know how they set up the flow meters.
It's less hard information.
It's what?
It's less hard information. We're not getting flow rates. It's telling you if you have a high flow issue, but it's not going to be a specific flow number.
So, yeah, I wish Alex was back here, but yeah, we're talking about, $35,000 maybe money well spent. I don't know.
We installed 7 flow inserts at Arapahoe County Water Wastewater Authority within the last year. We hooked them to the bottom of the manholes and we repurchased them. But when I left, we still haven't got them to, recalibrate correctly yet. There's a calibration issue
How long have they been in service?
for at least 7 months. So I don't know if these are the same ones or not. I haven't read about these, so I need to do the research and read and compare them to what we had at Arapahoe County Water Wastewater Authority. Because when it comes to flow inserts are tough. They're tough, especially in wastewater. So I have to see how they work. Do a little bit of research.
That's why my confidence level is not high.
That does not sound good.
Well, and we had them.
I don't know if it's the same one or not.
Right.
Yeah, we had a couple of, and they were, and it was a regulatory thing for us, so they had to be online and they had to be calibrated. It became a problem. It was always a problem.
Is there other ways to calculate flow?
Well, I think I really like this concept of the sewer rat thing, because it does give you an idea if you're doing it at specific times.
Yeah, the sewer rat won't tell you exact flow in gallons per minute or anything. It's just going to give you a number on if it's the levels rising or not. It's not going to give you the exact flow.
Also, it's not gonna pop out. Okay.
Well, it's going to tell you capacity or how much the pipe, right? I mean, you're looking at I'm sure they look at the diameter and there's an acoustic signature that they're getting, that if you're at a certain percentage, of capacity, you're going to get an echo or a signature.
Yeah.
That's going to give you and you could do the math and probably figure out at 70%, 6-inch or 4-inch pipe or whatever, you're going to have X amount of flow.
Yes.
So will you actually get a cross-sectional snapshot of, the pipe versus the standing flow?
No, I don't think so.
No.
We'll give you, you'll probably just get a data based on this, on a percentage. This pipe is flowing, 70% full, 50% full. It's not going to give you, flow in wastewater, realistically, it's tough to measure. About the only device ever made was a partial flume to measure wastewater. Open channel flumes, you've seen partial flumes. It's wastewater flow is difficult to measure.
Yep. Because it's also right. It's the condition of the pipe plus the slope, the grade, whatever you want to call it, right? Of the pipe plus PVC versus whatever material.
Well, it's what's in your fluid, right? I mean, if you just get standard water or something, that's one thing. But sewage is a composite of a lot of things, right? So it's hard to. That's where you're going with that, more or less.
Well, yeah. So first of all, it's gravity flow. So the pipe's not 100% full. Like we're talking about, to measure fullness of the pipe. So you're measuring half a diameter of a pipe. So it's in the drinking water side, it's under pressure, it's full. You're either turning a propeller or a turbine or a magmeter that's you looking at the conductance of the substance going through it. So in the wastewater, there's since it's only flowing half, you're not really showing that. That's why the entry point of a wastewater plant is what they call a partial flume. It's an open channel flume, same thing they use on ditches, where it comes in and it goes through a narrow throat and it backs up, and it's based on math calculation that Ralph Parshell from Colorado State University back in the 1920s came up with. So that's open channel flow flume. So a lot of devices have been created over years about inserts and everything from ultrasound to levels to try to use those calculations. So we could go back and review this to give you more information if you want to see how reliable it is, and we could actually talk to other customers that already put it in place to see how reliable the data is too, and we can compare it to Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Authority's devices also. So if you need more information, we can provide it. We do. All right.
That's kind of one of the points we've been harping on, is that sounds like it is I don't want to use the word fuzzy, but you can't just tell me exactly like the depth of flow in this pipe is this, right? You know, at any second of the day, right? It's a little,
No, but you don't need to. You just need to know where your peak flow is. You need to know if you're hitting that maximum, because that's gonna cause you a problem. So, I
Right.
mean, if you get that one, that's the one data point you need.
yeah, well,
Right, and when
I
you-
agree,
when
yeah.
You're
I'm-
getting to
yeah.
this, even the modeling, if you're getting into that fuzzy line, that's enough, especially when you know that you're gonna be growing. That's enough. You're not gonna be taking away. from
What
the
I'm
growth,
trying to
so-
say, that's been the concern. We can never, you know, we have to account basically for the uncertainty, so more so than the certainty in this case, because if there is a spike, if there is anything, we have to have that overhead, literally.
So what could cause your spikes is you could have people that have like frozen or broken water pipes, right? And they're flowing into the floor drains. That would be if you're at a level of capacity, for some reason, you will then, that's where you wipe out that capacity real quick. Because now you're receiving water at a continuous rate. And you know, and that will overload a sewer can. Absolutely.
Yeah, so, and we've had cases of people in the existing homes sewer backing out.
Well, you could, you know, there's
Yeah.
there's all these different situations. So you could have a freezing, I don't know, just you name it.
Understood. So that's why that's why we keep asking for, give us a little more certainty on understanding of this, and
Yeah, if you look at all the tools that we have at our disposal, besides visually inspecting it, to running a camera down through it, to using the new sewer rat, to, you know, testing any flow insert, we could give you all kinds of data, you know, all the information we need. And so the flow insert device, we probably want to talk to other customers that may have used it before, really the surrounding areas that are close by, and see if it's reliable. Just like the sewer rat, you know, if we're gonna purchase this, or lease this sewer rat, we're gonna show it, we're gonna test it out and see if it's reliable. Come next
So
week.
here's the accountant in me. So if you have a pipe and we estimate it's gonna cost X, do we wanna put, if it's $200,000, do you wanna spend 35 to find what the flow is? When you can just put the 35 towards the pipe?
good question.
Well, that's why I think, that's why I kind of think this sewer rat thing's gonna give us a low cost snapshot of something. So it's gonna give us a better data point. We already have, I mean, we know what we calculated here.
Right.
The 35 was for 7 sites.
Yeah,
So
that's for all of, exactly. It's for.
5,000 for this one site to do.
Yes. And, you know, you're all correct. You know, there can be problems with insert meters, but this is at least state of the art. And Gary Drillen and Ted Miller Associates does about as much flow monitoring as anybody in the state. And Jeff, if you'd like, you know, I can provide, you know, that information to you and set up a dialogue. Jeff, the new Jeff.
We call him Good Jeff.
Yeah.
The good bad Jeff, good, or you're both good. in my book. But I can get that information to you. You know, there's laser flow that uses Doppler effect, and that keeps the measurement device out of the water. There is another unit that gives you depth and cross-sectional area and velocity, and can actually measure temperature. So if you had a lot of infiltration, it gives you an indication of that. But he's very knowledgeable. He's done a lot of expert work over many, many years. That's been his career. Be happy to put you in touch with him, and he can provide information and sit down with you and go through the pros and cons.
Oh, yeah, I think that'd be great. I'd like to bring that to my complete staff.
Yeah.
Josh and Austin. And then that way, you know, our goal is to provide as much information as possible to the board. So
Yeah.
the more information we have, the better. That way they can balance everything. You know, if this program fits with the sewer rat program and makes the system, you know, it all is predictive maintenance. You know, you're familiar with predictive maintenance. So it's using the tool to
Use non-destructive tools to predict what your condition is.
Yeah. Part of asset care. So everything we're talking about is an asset care program.
So Terry, is one of these 7, or Kristen, one of the 7 areas, is this going to be the Cedar or Union Corridor, one of the, some of the Union Corridor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think maybe I'm going to make a motion to authorize $35,000. We can leave it up to, I guess, maybe, or we can have a discussion on that. I'm going to make a motion to authorize the expenditure of $35,000 for the Miller and Associates flow meter costs for the 7 locations around the district. I have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. So the discussion I would like to talk about is we could give this as a tool for Jeff, good Jeff. When, you know, if he thinks this is going to be a value added, to go ahead and move forward with it.
If I may, I guess, I don't know if that would be modification of the motion. I mean, do we want to say up to 35,000 if we think 5 sites or whatever is good enough, or do you want to say per, leave some discretion, or do we just say?
Let's say up to 35,000. Okay, I'll withdraw the motion. I will make another motion. I want to make a motion to allow up to $35,000 in expenditures for the Miller Flow Meter Company at the discretion of our of Jeff Tyus upon receiving information, and he will have an opinion on that. If it looks good, I think it's another component, another data point we need to have, because we're, you know, we have these capacity issues. We need to understand it better.
A long motion.
I'll second.
Sorry
the
about
motion.
that.
I'll second the motion as stated by Director Baker.
You should give me a shot caller when I've gone too far. Let me have it. Okay,
Karen, does that meet what you're interested in seeing?
First, I would say if that's a tool that you need, then I'm okay with it. That's, and it's within your spending discretion anyway, so that would be something that you're doing. For what I need is, I need to see one factor that says that we're edging in past our safety limits, and that's enough for me. I don't need to hunt for reasons why we're not in the safety factor, and that we have less than we need. Once you start searching for that, I'll take the number that's highest.
Well,
And if that's the model right now, so I don't need any other information for me to say right now. I would say we need to upsize that pipe. But if that is where we need to be comfortable and go forward and do some more research, more data is not going to hurt. I don't know if it'll change my opinion, but that's.
Well, I agree with you. That's
Give
why
the
we have
tools.
the discussion, you know, I'm just, I told you, I don't have my confidence. I don't have the confidence.
Sure, so if this will help, then, and it'll
Well,
be useful.
and
for
I know
are we
everything.
doing this for the developer, or are we doing this for us?
For us, I thought. I was going from.
Because if it's for the developer, I'd say zippity doo dah is what I'm giving them.
Now, this is 7 different locations, like Terry said and Kristen said, so it's definitely for us. And the goal would be to, if we, let's say we prove, like Jeff Baker said, let's say we proved out this tool works next week, let's say, and then we move forward with the tool. Our goal is to give you guys a map, a colored map of this tool along with the sewer rat tool that shows the, you know, what the exact system's doing as part of the master plan too. That way it's simple to read, say, okay, yeah, these are.
So then my question is, the study we did before showing we were at capacity, is that invalid? Or why are we reaffirming something that we have an answer to?
That gets to Karen's point that, you know, and I agree with Karen, I think, and going back to my original statement, we already have crossed that line based on our standard.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, if we already know there's an issue, we're just confirming there's an issue?
Well, at that location, so this will give you more complete, you know, not 100% collection system visual map of what the whole system's doing, this type of tool. But this, you know, so that was just part of the collection system of that development. It was, you know, with maybe a small percentage of the system, where these 7 locations would give you a much bigger percentage of the system along with the sewer line. So along with the master plan.
Plus, when you do master plans, you're looking at those those sewer sheds or those sewer basins globally. Now, we have very good data because we're lucky we have three metro meter stations, but that's spread about among all customers, and we do it as well as we can. But this zeroes in and makes it, more to a higher level of detail specific to those areas of concern. And you may find some areas have, slightly different flows.
I would just also keep in mind the master plan is all of the flow in the system all at a single time. And it doesn't account for diurnal flows or time of day or anything like that. So just keep in mind that the master plan model is a set of assumptions, and any other data you can get beyond that helps you refine and understand the model better.
Yes. Yeah. It considers peak throughout the whole system, worst case scenario. And we had the wettest date, we used the wettest data Metro had on record for peak wet weather flows. So it gives you the worst case, and unlikely that you get it in a system this large. Everywhere in the system is going to have the highest flow it's ever seen. So this does take you down to a more detailed level.
I think, as far as unlikely, that's part of our fiduciary responsibilities to look at the unlikely, because I wonder if they were doing that in Louisville or Superior, but looking at the unlikely.
Obviously not, so.
So that one, actually, we kind of do want to look at the unlikelies, I think.
I just think that we're basically, in a way, if we keep allowing these things to increase, we're almost setting ourselves up for failure.
I agree. So, to this point, then, Jeff, do you?
Bad Jeff.
Bad Jeff.
Director Baker.
We'll go with that. So what's your, general perspective? Is this kind of a case study for us to learn about another tool, or?
Well, I don't like authorizing money frivolously,
So,
but, hearing what I keep hearing, it goes back, I align with Karen. In my opinion, we've already crossed that line based on what we've already paid for out of engineering, and so that's why we have a discussion, right? You gotta be able to talk it out. So maybe we're just keep, throwing good money after something we already know.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
To me, simply, like I said, as an accountant, I'd be putting the money towards the pipe. That's 35 grand. I could put it that pipe
For $5 grand.
Well, then you
Well,
said this
I don't think it's gonna be 5. I think that's wishful thinking. But
Well,
I
it's
mean-
5 sites, it's 7 sites at 5,000 a site.
right, but if we already know we're at capacity, to me, we're just rolling the dice that we're not going to do something bad.
Agree.
As I listened to
And we're not
Todd,
gonna do that. I just mean the flows aren't going to increase and cause problems, to be more specific.
So what I heard maybe earlier then, also to Dylan's point, is maybe we should spend some effort on codifying what's our actual number, is it 0.7, is it 0.75? Put that in the bylaws. Oh, sorry, there's Director Gardner has a.
no, I just want to get recognized whenever you're done. Sorry.
Sorry, sir. I can shut up at any point.
No,
I'm
no,
done.
please continue. I was paying attention to you.
I'm good.
Okay, as I hear Todd and Karen speak, I'm reminded of the old adage, paralysis by analysis. I think that's where we are. We can keep kicking this can down the road, hoping for some better set of data, when we ought to be looking at the capital improvement plan and taking action today, because this isn't going to go away. Let's just get it done. Is anybody going to be upset if we have a little excess capacity a year from now?
Well, let's go through the vote and clear this motion. So all against the motion I just passed, say nay.
Nay.
Hey,
5 nays, so the motion falls. So I just want to keep this rolling, so I don't want to leave it out there.
No, but I mean,
So
so
we got another road here.
all the joking aside, though, I do appreciate the discussion though.
I agree.
This is
Yeah, very useful.
stability and the points being made. Thank you.
So no.
That's fine. Our goal is to give you more information, so it's easier
So.
to analyze.
So maybe I mean, if I'm getting this right now, maybe I guess we need to be looking at an estimate for the upsizing of this line, the capital improvement. So Terry, that would also include the, where is it? Would we have to redo the bid with American West Construction? If we were looking at upsizing this line over there, then they would have to extract, or we'd have to get another bid to probably pull that exposition development area out of this contract. Right? We're not gonna line it.
We're gonna replace it.
We're gonna replace it. We're not
We're
gonna
gonna
line
replace
it.
it. Mhm.
Is this segment on the list to be lined?
No,
Yeah, there-
no, so we, Jeff, if I understand you correctly, we could approach American West to get us a cost to add replacement of this to the contract,
Or would you want to bid it separately?
or bid it separately. Yeah, that'd be the choice.
Well, yeah, I think we'd want to put it out for bid because this is gonna be.
Yeah.
Well, what would be the, I don't understand the scope of the job, but Terry, what would be your wag on this thing, on a construction cost?
And Karen correctly identified that it's in the range of 200,000. At the time we prepared the master plan. Pricing has been, as everybody knows, it's been crazy lately with COVID and supply chain and even PVC pipe with costs, that cost of oil is reflected in PVC pipe. So, but at the time, and it was pretty good pricing and it was conservative. At the time of the master plan, it was about $200,000 of improvements.
What would you guess the bid for American West to line this? I mean, just a guess, I'm not gonna hold you to this, but what do you think they'd have to back out of the bid for this area?
Oh, let me see. I may be able to find that quickly for you, Jeff.
Do you mean to substitute instead of their scope?
Reduction of scope.
So their scope is 838,500.
Right.
Your original budget for the water and wastewater improvements together were 1,050,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 212 remaining in what was budgeted for water wastewater improvements that American West was going to cover, but we eliminated the water, changed the wastewater scope, landed at 838.5. So from my understanding, there's 212 left to work with under water wastewater improvements.
Yeah, but I'm talking about pulling this, if we upsize this line, Kristen, then we're not gonna be lining that line.
That
right? So
We
we're
weren't,
gonna
but we weren't going to be lining it before.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
segment is not in the current schedule of lining with American
have-
West.
Why we're talking about lining it? Okay, never mind.
No one was.
So the lining is for an upstream line that has infiltration that would reduce the total flow.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, my comment about lining, there are segments in the residential areas, not along Kipling. Large segments in the residential areas that are already in the 5-year schedule to be lined.
Okay.
That would be mitigating infiltration in these historically predominantly clay pipe area of these neighborhoods.
It's important though, too, I know you guys looked at this, is, okay, if you line a pipe, you solve the infiltration, which could solve the level in the pipe that you talk about, the safe level. But also, you reduce the diameter of the pipe. So when you reduce the diameter of the pipe too, it could, if you're not getting that much infiltration, it could increase the level also. So it is safer, in a new development to put in a larger diameter PVC pipe. Would you say, Terry, it's safer to use a larger diameter PVC pipe in a new development area. That way you cover all.
Yeah, I would agree. When it's this close, if this were half full, that'd be another issue. That the slight increase in, or I'm sorry, decrease in diameter to the lining wouldn't be significant if you're only flowing half full. But when you're at this kind of depth, I agree completely, Jeff. Replacing the pipe is the right approach.
And then, let's say you went out for bid on this particular section of pipe. If you wanted to do that, you might want to call this contractor and say, hey, if you get a bid, let's say you get a bid around $200,000, and you call a contractor and say, hey, we'll pay $100,000, you pay $100,000, or you see what I'm saying?
The developer.
The developer. Contractor developer.
So that would be the other component part of this is how much do we share? Going back to this original thing. So taking an hour to get here.
Everything's tied together.
We're not doing good on time.
Said I'll shut up.
I should have shut up. I'm probably talking to myself.
I think that's exactly the approach I would recommend. Go through and get a bid. It sounds like we could probably tag on to this one if we want to, or authorize a new bid and then take it to the developer and see what we can do with that.
That sounds like a course of action.
Okay.
So do you want a new bid or you want to see about American doing it?
Well, you want a larger diameter pipe, so Americans is going to line it. You don't want that. We just say, Terry, so you get a larger diameter pipe, you go out for bid, and then you don't have to necessarily share that bid with the contractor. You can say, hey, how much are you willing to pay into this? Are you willing to pay anything into this?
It'll be smart to say nothing. I'll just pay my fees.
Right.
So we're gonna have to, Dylan, is there something we could?
American Pipe, or I mean American West, can do replacements and new pipe. They did a 30-inch pipe for me in Erie, Colorado. So they're
that's another thing too, is bidding. You guys know this, Barry. It's always give you 3 bids. Just a little side story. My family's good friends with Jimmy Loprino, who owns Loprino Cheese, and he's worth $3 billion. And he tells his people, get 3 bids no matter what. 3 bids.
Always. Yeah, it's in our rules. Yep. Okay, so we'll
do a new
move.
bid?
Huh?
Do a new bid then? For
Vote.
3?
Yeah.
3 bids.
Vote.
Aye.
Move. You have to make a motion.
Do you have a motion? Sorry.
We'll move to open up a new bid for this project for replacement pipe one Kipling.
Second.
Discussion. Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we have 5 ayes. So Jeff, your first bidding, you get a lot, 48 hours, aren't you?
Yes. Delegation. Who's still on the line?
Okay, so the other part of this is we're gonna have to understand what's gonna be the ask of the developer.
Yeah, and I'd like to take a look at the original availability of service requirements to more fully inform you about that.
Okay, so we'll put this on the agenda for, at the end of this meeting, we'll throw this on the agenda.
Yeah.
And I think we have I think we have to have a special meeting on the 22nd.
That's kind of my recommendation.
I keep hearing 22nd.
I scheduled it.
Just remind me to we'll put that on the 22nd meeting if you can.
I'm either leaving the 22nd or the 30th.
Okay, let me make sure it's there. Maybe.
Not that I can't FaceTime.
Yeah, you can zoom there. This is gonna be a briefing level, but we need to get an update from, does that give you enough time to probably give us some kind of an update?
Yep.
So we'll just add that at the end of the meeting here. So Terry, for the sake of continuing to move the meeting, we'll go ahead and.
No, sorry, it's always me, but I have one more thing. Can you look at, I did like his suggestion about maybe we can let him proceed on this level, but not connect up.
Yeah.
But I don't want to imply that we will connect up without an agreement about this
Right.
cost sharing. So could you look at and see what you would recommend to let them move without
Us
promising
committing to
anything?
anything, yes.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. The next time.
Okay. All right, Terry, let's keep rolling.
All right. There's been no change in the construction project spreadsheet. So that's same status. Alameda Water and Sand District, of course, we've been working, staff has been doing a lot of the work in cleaning up some of the discrepancies in the district boundary and a handful of properties that were erroneously in Green Mountain. And they were also apparently in other districts as well. So they did a good job of cleaning some of that up. And then Dylan, so we've estimated accurately now between staff and us doing future, what the current customers are, equivalent customers going to Alameda, and what the potential future might be. Dylan has prepared a memo. I have no other information to report, but Dylan, of course, prepared a memo that I think you have all seen, doing a great job of synopsizing the history of agreements and the status. So if there are any questions, happy to address them.
Questions?
No, my understanding is that we've been talking about it for 5 months and we're still looking, and it doesn't really matter about anything in the past. We're starting from scratch anyway.
Yep.
So who cares?
Well,
right?
yeah, eventually you're gonna have to make a decision. If additional development is pursued in that area, subject to service by Alameda because of the topography issues, then the board is going to need to make a decision about how its relationship with Alameda will play into allowing or disallowing that development. There's currently not enough development in process to require you to interact with Alameda, is my understanding, but it's coming. So now you know what that line is when the proposed development exceeds the allowed taps served by Alameda. So if something comes
I
along, so I think the truly conservative number is 135 additional taps to be served by Alameda. And that's taking into consideration their 1974 position that there are fewer taps available than I believe are available. So if you get a development that's going to use up that 135 taps and require additional, you need to decide if you want to approve that and in negotiations with Alameda, or disapprove it because you don't want to enter into negotiations. Just how you want that to play out.
Well, what is our standing, I guess, in either position?
Well, you've got an agreement that is enforceable for up to 135 additional service connections or equivalents. Beyond that, that's the new agreement. That's what you'll have to negotiate. You just friendly neighboring districts is your position.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, there's no animosity. And Alameda is really, what I understand from Terry is that Alameda is itself going through internal discussions about what level of development they want to permit and how they want to recover costs or pay for any improvements in that area. So they've got their own issues going on that will probably affect their perspective when you come, if you come to them.
So my layman's understanding is up to 135 taps, no problem. And after that, it's basically, we technically don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you technically can't. without
Yeah.
going to them to ask in that particular geographic area that's described.
Thank you.
Dylan, does that include Colorado Christian University's campus?
That excludes them because those are served and billed directly by Alameda.
Oh, okay, thank you. But it would include the opposite side of Alameda on the south side?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking where logical development is and how quickly you eat up all those available taps.
Yeah, there's a proposal which is actually over the last couple of decades has come up and then died on the vine for service at that the southeast corner of Kipling and Alameda, that large vacant parcel.
Right.
And they have a plat approved for 48 single family, plus there is a mixed use parcel of enough acreage that they would like to put, higher density, multi-story improvements. So, there's the potential that you could almost approach the remaining number of taps depending on what type of high density they wanted to put on the rest of the parcel.
But you were saying we had taps based on the original agreement and the fact that that 74 letter was not authoritative. Because they did
Yeah,
have, they said no.
So the 1974 letter said 279, and they are not permitting anymore. The reasons for not permitting any more are no longer in effect. The 312, I think, is the only verifiable. So the difference there, so if you reduce the number that are currently in use from 312, if you reduce it from 279 and just, okay, if you're gonna assert 279, we will agree with you for whatever purposes. That's how I came up with the 135. There's 135 left.
Do you have any indication they agree with you?
Terry, did you talk to Alameda about our calculations of in-use taps?
We talked to them about what's existing, but we didn't touch on the agreement. We're aware, of course, having reviewed all those, the 312 number. I don't know where their 279 came from.
There wasn't any dispute about the number that are currently active.
No. But we've had no further conversations with them awaiting, board decision on whether to meet further, based on you having gone through all of the history and having a firm grasp of that, plus the existing development. You correctly noted they have capacity issues. Colorado Christian University has some expansion plans. They have their own other potential development plans, so they need to upsize. They have a number of reaches of their existing sewer that is overloaded currently, and overloaded to the point of it's flowing full. And so they're not allowing any more taps, and they have to upsize. And
So that's what I'm wondering. So you're saying currently existing, or you're saying current customers, but they could still use those 135 taps. We could still use those, or they're saying, no, we can't.
until they upsize the pipe.
No, we can't.
Yeah, there's no
Legally
additional taps.
Practically cannot.
Okay, so we still do not need to look at a new agreement. Okay, so we can take this off the agenda pretty much permanently at this point.
Until somebody comes with a development proposal that,
Past 135 units or something.
or really that is in that area.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. one thing off.
So, yeah, that's, I mean, do we need to make a motion on this, or this is kind of the board? What's the appetite for any further discussion on the Alameda thing? Mr. Gardner?
I'm comfortable with where we are. I don't. Let's not take on any more alligators that we don't have to.
I agree. Let's,
I'm
unless there's a reason for us to talk about it again, take it off the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. Item F, Terry.
And the ravine sewer is still on your agenda. I don't have anything further to add unless the board wants further discussion. I presented, the realignment option at the last board meeting. We did a preliminary design, as you know, and with drawing and discussion and cost estimate. So.
Yeah, can you, we were waiting with the onboarding of Jeff Tyus. So could you download some information to get him up to speed on that?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. That's all we need to do on that right now.
Well,
One, city attorney for Lakewood wants to know if the board, I approached him about the way in which to put signage up and block access to the one bridge. He wants to know if we want signs and barriers on all of the structures in that area, the three.
Well, I think from a legal standpoint, I thought we already covered that, but we don't want, I don't even like calling these things a bridge.
Yeah, so I think transition to structures.
There's structures, and if Lakewood wants to, it's their parks and they want to turn them into bridges and they want to come up with the money, then I'm all ears. Until then, it's a pipe hanger and should not be used as a bridge.
So signs should go up, signs and
Signs should
barricades
go
should go
up.
up on all of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Did we, you weren't costing us that, did we, can we get bids on those? And we were gonna look at the language to put on official signs.
Yeah, I also asked him if Lakewood had any specific requirements for signage.
Okay.
He hasn't gotten back to me on that.
I would love to see the reference to statutes where that water and sand districts cannot be in the park business unless it's next to a dam or something. So
Yeah,
that-
recreation area.
So that it's illegal, because I have heard feedback that maybe we're just being, but we're not legally allowed to be in the park business, especially within a park district.
I think probably good Jeff, you and I, and whoever else needs to be involved can take care of language without the board's involvement.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So when I hear back from him, Alex Doderick, if they have any specific requirements, I'll let you know. Otherwise, we can get signs out there. Maybe they'll put them up themselves if they've got specific requirements, in which case we may not have any say in the language. But Terry, were you costing out the barricades?
No, would the board like me to? I wasn't aware they would like me to do separate costs for the barricades, but I can certainly come up with something.
Yeah,
Now, I had a rough estimate or a preliminary estimate of 25,000 on the, I believe that was the number, on the relocation design. That included barriers. And I can do a little more detail if the board would like.
But keep in mind, Austin, I and Josh, we could go visually look at this and see what we're up against. And, see how difficult it is, our goal is just to keep people away from this, right? Yeah, so.
with a signage and
With signage.
as to why, because
But a hard barricade and not just caution on it. But if you could go take a look, I know you had some good ideas about rerouting that pipe, and so if you have time to explore that on top of everything else, maybe we can hear about that next time.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll get with the staff, we'll look at it and give you feedback on, make sure, number one, it's safe, for the public.
It's not a bridge.
Yeah, it's not a bridge. Number two, long-term goals, we shouldn't have wastewater pipes going over ravines anyway, so, we'll look at that too.
Maybe the sign can just say that this is not a bridge.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, keep in mind when it comes to, you know this better anyway, the signs are color coded, danger, red, red, white, black, danger signs, yellow, black. So you go, because people just, they're not gonna read it. They're gonna visually say, oh, danger or caution. So you have danger, caution. So,
Well, so getting back to the legal part of this, that's why he's asking the attorney, they have standards. It's
Yeah.
their park. They have standards. We have to adhere to those standards.
exactly.
It's our stuff, it's our pipe hanger, but it's not a bridge. Danger, stay off of it. See you later.
Yeah. And then usually, since you're working with city of Lakewood, it might just say danger with a picture. That way kids will stay off it, danger.
It's just to protect us because they will go on and if they hopefully the noise ever gets hurt. But that's, seeing what can happen. Okay. All right, Terry, thank you. Anyone have any further questions for Terry?
No, shut up.
Okay.
All righty, thank you. Good night.
Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Terry.
Terry.
Okay, we'll close agenda item 8, open up agenda item number 9, financial matters. Doug, are you on the line, or Kristen, are you handling this?
I can cover this. Does anyone have any questions about the reports?
I don't.
Do you want to make a motion to pass the,
I will make a motion that we pass the February 2022, March 2022 daily monthly operating expenses and capital expenditures.
I'll second that motion.
discussion? No discussion, call for vote. All in favor of approving the budget, say aye.
Aye.
We have, Alex, we have 5 ayes, 0 nays.
The good Alex, right?
Good, Alex.
Good. It's bad, Alex. Bad, Alex.
Okay. So we need let's move on to item B. And, unaudited investment report.
So I reviewed, that's the one that you're, part of what you're signing. I've reviewed it and looks right to me. Make a motion to accept that.
Yep.
I will make a motion to accept the February 2022 unaudited financial investment report.
I will second. Discussion.
I will approve the report per se, but I would like to get back to doing some long-term investing. Since I have been on the board, we're totally divested from that. We were going to come back and revisit that. And I know we're never going to be making as much money as we want, but to have no long-term investing is just leaving money on the table, hoping for more later. We could have had 2 years into a 5-year CD by now.
Take that note on that to get with Doug. And
Yeah, that's good. I'll put that on, every week we'll have team meetings with staff and all these will be on the agenda. And then we'll make sure we'll email the agenda to the whole board, say, yeah, these, and we'll give you as much information as that is possible. That way you can discuss it further too.
Well, I think he did provide a lot of information. It's just, do we want to do one or
Take a step, yeah,
or
take
not? Yes.
Action plan again, yeah.
Yes.
What are we doing?
So we have some information. The last thing we did was just we had a $250,000 bond. We were rolling them along, and we just have taken all of them out. So we could do the same thing. We could look at, I don't know. I know there's a whole bunch of other strategies. I don't know if anybody wants to look at the strategies, but I would like to have that discussion at some point if you're not ready for it tonight. Just seems like we gotta be doing something with that. Yeah.
Well, put it on the next whatever and see what maybe could Jeff and Doug and
Did you ever look at Doug's suggestions for that time?
The ones that I suggested, he said that at the time, we weren't allowed to put any more money into them, that we were capped by whatever the Colorado laws were. And so that part honestly does not, I mean, I understand it's a lot, doesn't make sense to me, especially if the money is accessible.
Right, no,
But
I think that's why we just did the seedings.
right.
Probably the special district laws.
It is.
Yeah.
So that, and I guess that's without lobbying. I mean, as long as something is safe, it's in a safe investment, I don't understand why we're not allowed that money there. Because otherwise, we literally have millions of dollars just sitting, like, interest-free, everything free.
Would you maybe take a look at the CD options that we have
Yeah.
for next year?
Yep.
We can do those. Even if it's a year. I don't think a year is worth it, but anyway.
Well, but the other thing I need to find out is what CD options are acceptable to the.
Yeah.
Like if it's under, because the things before that what was limited, it's all under those core programs.
Yep.
And we did not have a lot of choice.
Yeah. I think that's a fair description of your options. You do not have a lot of choice.
Correct. I agree, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we already had this discussion, but yeah, we'll look into it.
Well, maybe, you know what, I'll just contact Doug or he can ask Doug, just, I guess the question is, what options do we have under core? Again,
I think Doug's gonna be the best
Yeah,
resource.
Doug.
right.
So to go back to your motion, that was my discussion. All in favor?
Oh,
Usurper.
I know, move it along, sorry, I digressed, but
You digress me into oblivion. Where am I?
yes, you need to call for the motion.
What am I?
Call for a vote on the.
There was a motion on the table.
Investment report.
Oh, literally stalled
I
it,
did.
killed it. Okay. All in favor of approving the investment report, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, Alex.
It's a very short filibuster.
It worked. I'm stupefied. I don't even know what my name is
Well,
right
it's
now.
been too- yeah, it's been long so far.
Okay, we're gonna move into financial matters, item C, system development fees. It's on page 51. I'm going to make a motion to increase the tap fees. We'll find on the graph in your board packet. It's on page 51, I believe. The lower right-hand graph. We're using the BCI index. I'm proposing, the motion is to increase it under the column 1.17 for water and sewer taps.
I would second that motion.
So we have a second with that, Alex, and then we'll move into discussion.
I'm okay with that, as long as we're not reducing anything.
Any discussion? Dave?
Yeah, that's a slight, that would be a slight increase over Raptelis's algorithm or not?
So we're moving, so the current is $6,086.41 per water tap.
Right.
If we pass this resolution, it moves up to $7,101.62. The sewer tap fee will move from $3,573.67 to $4,169.76.
Got it. Still too damn low, but I'll agree.
Well, I will second Director Gardner's point is, again, I've been kind of raising some of these other environmental and whatever aspects that are now facing us with Marshall Fire and what I just, Mr. Tyus, that's, the board's been very interested in, if you want to call it algorithm or whatnot, of how the SDF should be adjusted. I think you yourself expressed some, what's the right word, opinion or whatever, on the fees of the district. And so the board is looking for kind of a codified algorithm, if you will, with other factors, and we want to know what those factors are, other than BCI or CPI or anything else, to price in and to the SDFs to correctly account for the, externalities and not just the typical status quo factors, if you will. Did I summarize that, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay.
Works for me.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. It's just, this is the best we could do with the data points we have right now.
Yep.
That this was we've had discussions, we keep talking about it. We've been talking about it offline and trying to come up with these things. We had Reptelis in here, and this is the best we could come up with at this point. I do want it institutionalized, that we have this algorithm, and it should be looked at quarterly. And if we have a reason to increase, we increase, and it should be automatic. Should be something we have to think about and come up with, and then, you know, keep doing this. It should be a lot more automatic and institutionalized in the district teams.
So, Mr. Tyus, to that point, if you can, you know, once you sort of wrap your head around the district state of affairs, if you start seeing kind of from your experience also what other factors that can be codified that go into these fees maybe need to be brought to the fore, that would be appreciated.
Oh, yes, no problem. There, you know, there's a lot of variables in tap fees. I know that, you know, we're partnered with Denver Water. There might be fees they're charging also,
right?
Which is good, because, you know, Denver Water's, you know what they're doing. They're trying to build a $500 million water plant, and you guys know better than anybody. That's the budget, $500 million. So by the time they build, it's going to be $1 billion. So, you know, they got to pass that cost along. And they're also trying to add water to Gross Reservoir, and their water supply is dropping. So, you know, there's so many variables. And you also look at snowpack over the years, you know, that, you know, ever since 1999, the snowpack hasn't been steady like it's been in the past. The first drought in history was in 2002, you know, both in recorded history and tree ring history. So water is a very valuable resource, and it's going to take money to do that. And, you know, the Marshall Fire does change everything, because, you know, they had to use raw water, which wasn't classified as drinking water, to fight the fire, because they couldn't get enough water. So there is a storage tank issues. And that's why everything overlaps. That's why we have to, you know, get our storage tank back online to, you know, fight fires. And that's why Austin works so hard to get those fire hydrants. But that's why, you know, tap fees, besides you looking at indexes, we have to look at all those other variables to protect our customers in case of a fire, natural disaster, you know, power outages, blizzards, and, you know, drought. So there's those variables, along with, you know, when inflation, supply chain. So there's a lot of variables in tap fees.
And that's why we were hoping. I actually was hoping for a better result when we had Reptelis in here. So anyway, we need to get better at this. This is just our best swing at this right now. So I have a motion on the floor.
Well, just to add the closing point, I apologize. So if you can take that, maybe, I don't know if you want to put this in the top, what, 3 priorities of the
We
board?
talked with them yesterday about
So
this.
that should be kind of, you know, you said you're kind of a metrics person. So if we can, maybe you, based on your experience, can start wrapping your head around, call it a formula, call it algorithm. We do need to codify it better.
I'm gonna step in the middle of it just so that my vote is explained, and say that I have not heard a legal reason to raise it beyond draft house. I have been logging everything everybody's been saying, the replacement cost, the cost of water, the controlled development, environmental factors, Denver Water's infrastructure. All of that are legally prohibited in the system development fees. They're in statute. That's what Reptelis said. So I agree we should raise them based on their recommendations, but I don't want to get beyond that just based on kind of arm waving. And I mean, especially things like, we do have a lot of environmental factors, and that nobody doubts that the cost of water is rising. If we had water rights, our system development fees would be a lot higher, there's no doubt, but we don't. So we can't, I don't think we can raise costs on somebody for a commodity that we don't even own. What we can do is based on the pipes, and that's what Reptelis did. There is some room to play in the Reptelis thing, because they did not take capacity into account, because we didn't take it into account, because we are still fighting about whether or not we have capacity and what our capacity limits are. But that's going to be a different story. Right now, what we can justify legally is, are these numbers. The wastewater numbers should go down. We don't decrease rates, but we can't even justify them as high as they are. So to raise them, based on this inflation number, will be $1,000 higher than
Well,
what
that's
could
the
be
tap
legally
fees.
justified, just tap fees. So
No,
That is-
the
that is
sewer is
where
not
I-
$1,000.
well, it is,
It's at 3573. We're pushing it up to
Right.
4169.
Higher
Right.
than Raftel's.
higher than what their justified method is, and they really, that replacement cost new is a really high number when you use that method. So, I mean, they took out everything that you can do. So I understand the push for it. I understand your votes. I'm just gonna put it out there. That's why I will be voting against that, because that seems high, and I don't want us to get into legal trouble later on. We are under a microscope right now. If somebody wants to come and say, why are you charging us all this money for tap fees? All you need is, nobody's gonna quibble over, take us to court for a couple $100, but you start doing something more than that, and they quit.
What does Denver Water charge for a 3/4 inch tap fee along with ours?
Well, that's on top of,
Yeah, on top of it.
on top of ours, so
You know
that's
what it
why
is?
I do not.
But see,
And that's what we originally matched our rates to, but we can't match our rates to Denver Water because they have all that infrastructure, we do not.
Yeah.
We don't have the treatment, we don't have the water rights, we don't have any of that, so that's why ours are
Well,
substantially
I'll
lower.
get you that number, because more than likely, it could be high. I mean, it could
It
be as
could
high
be
as
high.
14,000 or 20,000.
It is.
It is, yeah,
So they're paying for that.
right.
but then what we've heard is some of the other districts that, for example, I would imagine in Louisville, their combined, whatever, if you, this is just hypothetical, is probably what, 20, whatever ranges, I mean, all combined.
Well, like I pulled up Willow Springs last month. And I know they're a smaller water district than us. And their tap fees they had 3 areas. One was about the same as ours. One was like at $14,000 or $15,000. And the other was like at $18,000. So I'd be curious to know how they justify that when I'm pretty sure they don't have water rights and they don't have infrastructure and they're 3 times what we are. So either A, they're risk takers, or B, they have a bunch of hidden costs somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I came from Arapahoe County Water Wastewater Authority, a 3/4 inch water tap's around $28,000. And within the authority, but we also took care of Elkhorn Ranch, which is way out east,
Right.
that's supplied with water coming out of the Arapahoe Aquifer, which, there's not much water rights when you drill 1,500 feet down to pump water out of the Arapahoe Aquifer. But those water taps, a 3/4 inch water tap, between $45,000 and $50,000.
Yeah, so we're still, even when you use the Arapahoe model or whatever, we're still underneath. We just haven't figured it out yet, Karen. I mean,
Well, no,
I
mean,
guarantee you, we're still undervalued. We haven't figured it out yet, and that's why we have to keep, to the point, I think we can justify with the BCI index. I mean, we're not just, this isn't some random factor we're putting out there. Like you said, it's not hand waving, it is a BCI factor, an index. So, to justify this, so.
Well, you're justifying the BCI. The BCI is fine. I think if you would set it to Raftellus now and use BCI next year, that would be fine. But you're basing the BCI on the arm waving number from last time that, I mean, they just matched Denver water rates, was really, we have probably been overcharging developers for years based on matching rates to Denver, which we couldn't justify. And nobody called us on it, which was great.
Well, I think that's because we're way undervalued and they know that.
Well,
I believe that. I mean, I think what you're saying, what I agree with is you're saying use this legal formula.
Yeah.
What my thought is, we aren't even
Close to the formula.
close to what legally should be out there and being accounted for. Because I can tell you, working in an architectural firm, I see tap fees. I never see anything like this. People would laugh if they got tap fees of $11,000. I mean, they get tap fees of hundreds and hundreds of thousands. I mean, not, I shouldn't say hundreds, but like, say you get a person in a commercial thing, they maybe get a line, and I mean, it can be $150,000, $200,000, $300,000, $500,000. And they don't bat an eye at it.
Yeah, so a 3 inch diameter tap is gonna cost, it could cost, easily $200,000, $300,000. You get into 6 inch diameter taps could cost upwards of $1 million. So it's all based on diameter, like but But we could get you more information, especially with the.
I understand it'll go up based on diameter, but I also understand that these are great arguments, but if I could sell my house for $1 million just because my neighbor did, and their house is bigger. I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's not, you're not making a legal argument to me. So
Not yet.
you haven't changed my mind. I'm just explaining.
That's fine. Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote then.
Question.
More discussion.
Well, this is the 3/4 tap. What's happening with everything up the line?
Are we
So
doing it on all of them?
Well, yeah, so what's
Everything
the-
scales up.
Okay.
Everything scales up by EQR.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, sound good.
Multiplication.
thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Call for vote. All in favor of the rate increase, say aye.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes, all against, say nay.
Nay.
We have 1 nay. Motion passes.
The resolution should be in the folder of things to sign, and then I'll show Jeff where the file is to update the table of the appendix, and then that will be posted to the website.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, that should close out financial matters. And we'll move into agenda item number 10, district manager report. Kristen, Jeff, good Jeff.
I just, from closing up last week, I just, in keeping with the usual report of employee accomplishments and compliments, we continue to receive compliments for field staff and their work. And I wanted to acknowledge Cody Knapp and Cameron Sims for their 1-year service with the district. I also want to thank Luke Andrusick for 4 years service with the district, and say that I am sorry. I regret that Luke has tendered his resignation this week and will be leaving. So we'll be opening a new position to fill filled staff. That's all I had in transition business.
What did you say, Karen?
Did he give a reason why?
I was gonna ask that. Is there, I mean, unless it's a private matter.
To my understanding, it was pay and opportunity for advancement.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to Austin about that today. It was paid Boulder County.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
which is traditionally higher, it's higher.
Does he live closer there or?
I don't know. Austin would know, but, so.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to close agenda item number 10, move to agenda item number 11, directors matters. We have the district staff engineer on page 66 of your packet. Do I need to bring up that letter at this point?
I think you and Alex might both want to talk about the emails that you got.
It was just me.
You got an email that you sent around today just about the sales pitch. You want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, so this was not on the agenda, but
No, but I think it suitably falls under the director's matters.
okay, just an FYI, I got an email from Fracta AI or something. And in the past, I kind of didn't give it too much credence, but today I just forwarded that to specifically Director Baker and Sam, Jesse, and Dylan to just look over it. If it's not spam, then is it something, it just feeds in the topic of examining the possible failure rates or something of your infrastructure, and if it's worth for the district to consider. So pending.
I think I
input
had
from
that
this-
too, yeah.
So yeah, maybe you got that one too. So pending input from staff, I don't think there's anything further to do. If you think it's actionable, let us know.
Okay, now let's keep it at a pretty sanitized level. I received an email from a plaintiff in the Big Sky wanting to have a specific phone conversation with me. And I'm not comfortable with those kind of situations. So I'm just trying to put that out there in the public. I forwarded it on to our attorneys. I have not did not reply. I did not call. I've done nothing with it, but I thought everyone needs to be aware of it. I'm not comfortable with that type of legal process, especially where we're in appeals and we're in, you know, we're a legal thing here. I am not comfortable doing that. So just wanted to put that out there. I have done nothing, but I did receive it.
And my recommendation was not to do anything. Scott, I think Scott took has the perspective that it could be a useful opportunity to engage in dialogue if the district's interested in that. And I agree. I think that if there's anything the district wanted to say to any of the plaintiffs, you're able to. Parties can always talk. I couldn't talk to him. Scott couldn't talk to him. Their lawyers couldn't talk to you. But there's no specific reason to do so.
Based on personal prior experiences in this thing, I'm absolutely not comfortable.
Yeah.
With this at all.
And I think that certainly the safest avenue for any conversations would be attorney to attorney. So if Scott wants to talk to their attorney.
And I pretty much told him that today. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it on that level. This is at a minimum, this is at a board level. So I'm not comfortable with being segregated and, you know, and I don't want personal conversations.
Yeah, or if he wants, or if a representative of any of them want to be put on the agenda to discuss it. So
Always public comment.
Right.
All right.
Thank you for handling that like that and not having meetings and then informing us of them after the fact. I appreciate you.
There's, if I've learned anything in 4
To me,
years.
it's like all you could do is get yourself in a hole,
Yeah.
not knowing.
There's reason we have attorneys and, you know, I mean, it sounds like we're always running to them with everything, but we live in that day and age where, especially when we represent a district, I'm not Jeff Baker, I am an entity of this district, and for somebody to single me out concerning a legal situation, I am not comfortable. I never will be comfortable. I will run away. That's a danger stranger, you know. So, okay. Any other directors matters on the, I guess, Karen, I guess the floor is yours, right? Page 66.
Well, we talked last time about getting a engineer on staff, and the question came up about some numbers. So I finished filling out, taking the invoices from Merrick. So that's what the numbers are, just to show Doug started this. The question is, outside of what we budget for, because that's what we look at, we budget for an engineer, and that could be whatever studies we want. So that could be, that number fluctuates, but we also have another avenues that we end up paying him through for capital improvements, for development reviews, all those things add up. And so when you look at how much we're paying Merrick through whatever avenue, it ends up to be enough. I think our lowest here is 152,000, but it gets up to 400,000. Oh, and Doug added more numbers. I mean, it gets clear, it's ridiculous. So there is room for a staff engineer if we wanted to do that, just based on spending.
So do you want to, we mentioned this to Jeff Tyus, good Jeff, yesterday, and, you know, we're just in the infancy of this. So Jeff, I will yield the floor to you on one of your suggestions of what that might look like and what the title of that.
Yeah, so doing the I sent you the bullet points on the benefits of having a staff engineer, and a lot of districts do have, engineers on the staff to oversee projects and quality control. And, talking to my staff, they're afraid of losing Terry completely, naturally, because Terry's done so much work for the district forever. But as we talk with the board, you'll see that there's no way you're gonna, eliminate Merrick 100%. You might, So if you look at those numbers, you'll probably could reduce it somewhere around 50%. So you're not going to reduce all those numbers by 100%. And then leading into a staff engineer, you'd want to, a job title somewhere around utility engineer that could come on and take on a lot of these tasks and put together a lot better information for your questions and decisions before the meeting. That way, you'll have the tools at your disposal to make these decisions from the staff engineer. You'll have maps, diagrams, dashboards. Me and my staff, we can provide that now, but with the staff engineer, you're going to have a lot more resources at hand. And keep in mind too, the staff engineers is going to work with all the contract engineers, whether it be Merrick or whoever. It's just our goal is to track that cost and reduce that cost. But if you look at, we'd have to create the job description in the pay scale, because a lot of, as you well know, I work for HDR engineering. A lot of my friends, most of my friends work for engineering companies, and their pay scales are high. They have high pay scales. So I envision the staff engineer you get would be somewhere around an entry level utility engineer that would be highly energetic, that would go out and do a lot of this testing and data collection that we need to make these decisions on capital projects. Like, for example, we're trying to decide to get these insert meters. So we need actual hard evidence and data so you guys can make that decision. So a staff engineer can do that, and they'll be at our disposal. So there's all these benefits, and just to ease the staff here for relying on Merrick, Terry's not going to go away. It's just we're going to try to reduce that cost of paying out in order to justify our utility engineer. Does that make sense? So there is the benefits. I sent you those bullet points.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sending that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I also like having the staff engineer for just reducing the appearance of conflict. We have so much development going on these questions. We've got so much going. I think the staff, everybody would come to rely on that person, and we want that expertise in house. Do you think, is that something that the utility engineer might be, I would envision somebody doing like the development reviews and the data, like you're doing some of the keeping up with the modeling, so that we're up to date on all of those decisions, just like you're saying.
Yeah, I think that, the first step would be to create the job description. Then approve the job description, because they'll see specifically, and keep in mind, we're basing job descriptions on, utility one engineer, first level engineer. So that job description would include everything you need to at your disposal for those resources, which isn't going to cost, a high salary like, engineer 3 or something. Plus, we'll be able to get more candidates. So I think that's our first step, is to create the job description and then see if you guys want to approve it.
So could I ask you to work with Jeff, and you guys we could come up with a job description and start maybe forming this up a little bit, what that looks like, the job description, and maybe a salary range, those kind of things, or something like that. Just kind of start giving us a little bit of form, structure to it.
Bring it next month.
Yeah, we'll put this on when we get to the next month agenda items. If we can kind of keep rolling forward on that.
Well, and I would just second some of the sentiments that Eric Morgan had expressed as well. And also just keep in mind too, for example, like with Sam doing GIS work, I am more on the side of bringing as much expertise in-house as possible anyways, because, and I think we've asked this before, I believe, if, for example, if there is interest in taking training courses in GIS or whatever, to kind of grow people in-house more and more so that way. So it's not just kind of look at it maybe more holistically too, along with the engineer, how much expertise can be kind of grown and nurtured more and more in-house.
Well, you can grow the in-house, but then we don't want to overload that. I mean,
well,
that's the other thing.
Correct,
We keep loading up our horses, but yeah, then you without being here every day, because we're not, you have to watch workloads, those kind of things. So
So that, but to that point, engineers like to tinker, and maybe some automation could, like, there could be noticed even more rooms for automation that this person
Well-
hypothetically potentially could work on to actually.
right, if you have
Yeah.
one staffed in here, first
Yeah.
off, they're with the district. I think it's a great tool for what's going on here all the time. So a great tool for Jeff and the staff. So I think it makes sense. I've always thought it makes sense. And of course, you're always going to need additional resources, but I think the in-house, I'm just coming from the thing, over my 35 years of experience, I saw where everything wanted to be outsourced, insourced. You always had a better quality and control with all in-house. I mean, you always hear the thing like, well, it's cheaper. It's cheaper for a while or something until it's not. And then it becomes, and then you're kind of stuck. You've dismantled an institution, right? Now you're in a third-party subcontract mode. And that gets so abusive and crazy. I mean, it always looks good on paper and that's what's promised. That's not what's delivered. It's better to go in-house. It's better to build your staff.
Yeah, just real life example is, okay, we're talking to a contract engineer about posting signs and he's coming up with a cost of $25,000. So you can imagine if we had, this, internally staff engineer, it's like, we're not gonna pay those rates. We're just gonna go ask Lakewood, what's the best sign to post, and we're gonna post it. So that's just one real life example happening today. And then hopefully we're not spending as much time discussing these other projects because you have that information beforehand, before the meeting to, make quick assessments of it and quick decisions.
Well, and that would fall under it's your staff, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, so we're gonna feed you that information.
So we're gonna get faster, better,
Yeah, faster, better, more information, make better decisions, better informed decisions.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Anything else on that, Karen, you wanna, at this point?
No, thanks for doing that. I think that'll be a great addition.
Okay, well, we'll close out that agenda item 11, if that's okay with everybody. And we'll go to legal matters, agenda item number 12, and Dylan, you're on deck.
So just generally, we talked about the Alameda issue, the ravine issue. I've got instructions on both of those. The first item on the agenda is the legislative advocacy question. And my understanding was the board would like some suggestions or recommendations on how to get the district's perspective acknowledged by the legislature, or to get a better understanding of why the SDA in particular is taking the perspective that it's taking on certain pending legislation. I spoke with Director Plotkin recently. I understand that he's been attending I guess it's probably the local government committee.
The committee of 5 that was looking at a bill.
Yeah.
So whichever one that's called, I'm not particularly well versed in it, but
Yeah, the one that's going to affect the district most is the local government committee, and they meet about every other week. So those meetings are probably available online. They used to be in person, used to go down to the Capitol and sit in the basement. But now they're probably exclusively Zoom. So that's at least an opportunity to stay abreast of things and individually make your positions known. There's also the ongoing SDA legislation updates. The next one's going to be I think it's March 22nd. There was one today that I didn't watch. Those are always useful. You get the SDA's perspective on everything, but you don't have as much opportunity to provide feedback. It's you just listening. So that leads to the next is the SDA is pretty good about direct outreach to them. If you can contact Ann Terry, contact Michael Valdez. They're, for as important of an organization as they are, their staff is small and available. So you can have both formal and informal contacts with them. And then you hire a lobbyist or a lobbying firm to present your perspective to the legislature. You you would be far from the only district to do that. I would say it's a very small minority of districts that have lobbyists, but it's not none. And the SDA itself has a couple lobbyists that are registered. Michael Valdez is one of them. So you've got options there. I don't particularly have a strong recommendation other than get as much information as you can and tell everyone who you want to know what your perspectives are.
Well, having had mixed, I would call success by any stretch of imagination, mixed experiences with, keeping my input as just an individual citizen to any given governing body. What would be the most, I guess, what would be a potential cost prudent versus legally prudent option, I guess, for a district to be heard as an entity versus just, so we say we receive certain, at least I would like to think, certain amount of opinion from the public. How do we present that for the best interest of the district?
Yeah, so probably one thing I didn't just discuss, but for special districts through their boards are allowed to take positions on issues. Specifically in the Tabor context, you can take a position as a district on ballot issues is the technical term. So ballot issues for or against, not your own tax increase, for example. But if there is something that's going to be on the ballot statewide in November, you can adopt a formal position with respect to that and by resolution, publish the resolution, circulate it, provide it to your residents if you want. That's probably the most, I don't know how effective that is. In broad strokes, I don't know how effective any sort of advocacy is, but from a authorized action and formality perspective, I think that that's probably the best thing. And probably sending that to the SDA with some sort of, here is our adopted position on this ballot issue. Appreciate you taking this into consideration as you make your legislative recommendations.
But that sounds like that could just be done via the normal process that we have. With
Right. Yeah, so there are also informal mechanisms to do the same thing. And Director Garner's suggestion at the last meeting that a couple of directors just meet with Ann Terry to get coffee and chat about things. I have no doubt that she would be perfectly happy to do that. She might be busy, it might be hard to arrange that, but I'm sure she'd be happy to do that. Or Michael.
I guess
I'd actually plan to do that outreach through Allison Ulmer, who's the vice president of the board.
Yeah, she'd be a great resource for any of the directors to speak with as well.
Yeah. And you're obviously welcome at that lunch, Dylan.
Appreciate that.
Could we get, could we look at what the cost would be to be, and I guess that would, I don't know if that would be what the hiring process would be for getting a lobbyist. I don't know if it would be working through the SDA, but look at and see what that would be. It would just, I echo your sentiments that we can go in and make our public comment, but it would be listened to. It would be listened to better if it came from not us individually and it came from a lobbyist. If we had a formal statement, and that would help us craft the language.
What would
we
other
wanted to do
water
that.
districts be willing to go in?
Yeah.
I mean,
You could, you have to register as a lobbyist and you have to register with clients. So you can find out who represents who, and you could just reach out to some of the lobbyists or firms that represent other districts and just
try to piggyback.
feel them out.
Yeah.
or on pricing or on,
I didn't find many that were on what I was suggesting. Everybody was on the home building opposing side of, so I didn't find anybody to call and say, would you represent us on this? That was what led me to ask the question. I'm like, there's nobody here that is representing this. And that's what I think. I would rather not make it easier to be subsumed.
Sounds
in
like a
Jefferson
career
County.
field somebody ought to look into.
so is this specifically with respect to the additional reporting requirements for developer districts? That legislation, is that what started this?
I would, well, that one, I don't,
Okay.
is that the one where the residents can get on the board?
Yep.
Residency, that one I think died on committee.
Yeah, today.
And-
or the 2 days.
And I was looking at the one that was with the county being able to take over, either, just like the city can. And I think that one's still going through, and the SDA is lobbying for that one. But no, but I didn't see anybody registered opposed to it. It doesn't sound like, I mean, I'm just, like I said, I will go conspiracy theory on it, and maybe it's not that bad. But if they,
No
so if that would be something that we could, I would be interested in finding something funny about. Is that, so you think I should I reach out and do the research and find somebody that, I don't know who else to go through besides the register, and there's nobody registered on that side of the position? Or is that putting?
Well, yeah, I guess if you want to, I don't care who does it.
Is it,
I'm happy to
do
do
you
it.
know people? That would be great. if you-
I'm going to bill you for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you want to spend your time, if you want to spend my time, whatever, I am happy to do it. What I would probably do is just start with identifying the special districts, not exclusively water districts. Identify the firms or individuals that represent them and start attempting to determine if they take a position on it.
Okay.
It may very well be that no one is opposing that.
Yeah. I found people with metro districts, but I didn't find anybody representing other special districts. But
Well, I'll say this much, it seems that there is quite a bit of confusion, even maybe it possibly just at state level, what metro district is versus a special district.
Yeah, I'm sure that from the state legislature perspective, there is no difference between a metro district and a special district. I mean, statute is only it's the services that are provided. It's the only real distinction. You know, on the ground, obviously, the reality is different. But
well, is it, would be okay, is anybody open to looking at that? If I would spend some time finding somebody that would represent us, is that anything you were interested in?
Well, I think it would
Okay,
help us
good.
with our fees. I mean.
You could lobby for that, yes.
Right,
and not to be crass, but lobbyists are hired guns. You know, find one that's not taking a position now and tell them what position to take.
Yep.
Well,
I say as a hired gun.
we've heard like there's some nuances that I think we've covered on over the last several years of how this could affect, you know, potential liabilities of things that could arise from how and where and what the service is delivered or not delivered, I guess, in general sense. So, there's definitely, I think there's some considerations to be discussed.
There is. And that one that just died, we should have been lobbying for that as a district, because we have direct problems with that.
That died by the grace of God. That was only because one legislator saw a shiny object and went off in a different direction. If she would have stayed on, that would have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't by any great maneuvering. It was just, oh, there's a prettier shiny thing over here. And that's how that felt.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that felt.
Okay.
That was luck. Or God, whatever.
Well, I will do that then to see if I can bring anything
Yeah, look that one up.
forward.
So the second legal item on the agenda is the ongoing malpractice litigation against Ice Noble Cedar Code. Just as an ancillary update, I submitted the formal complaint against prior counsel. I'm waiting for my submission. The process is going to be the initial submittal, and then they will contact me. I haven't been contacted yet to continue that process, but I expect to be called any day now. There is an executive session on the agenda. Unless there's a specific request, I don't think that it's necessary to go into executive session. Lead Director Morgan asked me to take this up. Basically, your question was, should the district even be pursuing this or allowing it to be pursued?
It's fair. We never voted on it. So I kind of want to just close it. I don't know. You have said you reviewed it and it's not frivolous, but I don't know what the basis of it is. So if we needed to have, if we can go over that, if that needs to be in an executive session or not, but if we need, I think at some point we need to have a vote on whether or not that continues. And if we're going to vote on it, I need to know the basis of the case because I have no idea what it is.
Okay, so in broad brushstrokes, the basis of the malpractice case is that two or three bases. One is that pending the outcome of the Big Sky litigation, the final outcome, the argument that the district through Ms. Timmons made, unwittingly perhaps, is that the firm representing the district at the time of the development and adoption of that IGA failed to meet its professional standards of competence and diligence and fiduciary responsibilities, etc., to the district in its drafting of the IGA. I think that argument is plausible. In addition, against individual attorneys with the law firm, there are allegations made that essentially prior professional relationships resulted in a conflict of interest that should have been disclosed to the district, and that materially impacted the drafting of the IGA in a way that negatively affected the district. Primarily, Norton,
Yep.
Forget his first name.
Charles?
Yeah, Charles Norton, and Ice Noble were partners at one time. And I don't know factually whether they were partners while representing adverse parties, in this case, Big Sky and Green Mountain. I don't know that factually. And even if that was the case, even if they were representing two different districts that were negotiating, it's entirely possible and allowed that they just set up a Chinese wall where neither worked on the other's project, essentially. And there's ways to do that that don't violate the application. The complaint alleges that it was done, it was not done in the appropriate way. I think that that's also plausible. I don't feel strongly about the malpractice case that it should be prosecuted. I also don't feel strongly that there is any harm in allowing it to continue. Right now, it's every 90 days, I submit a status report on the basis of where the underlying litigation is, and that's going to be no update, still on appeal, for however long that goes. And then if the district prevails on appeal and it goes up to the Supreme Court, then it'll be no update, still on appeal. If the district does not prevail on appeal and it goes back down, it'll be no update. It's still trial is pending in 2024. So allowing it to continue costs you like $150 a year. allowing it to lapse or dismissing it voluntarily is the alternative, I think. And that, well, voluntarily dismissing it is the alternative. You either just allow it to go on, or you dismiss it affirmatively. And that you lose the possibility of recovery if it turns out that there was professional malpractice.
So right now, it's just going along and we don't have to do anything, but if it comes down. So is it gonna stand on its own? to
The-
press it, or you're
The
gonna-
only circumstances under which the case really should legitimately be prosecuted is if the primary circumstances under which the case should be prosecuted is if the appellate court sends back the litigation and the matter is tried and trial goes against Green Mountain. And then you have damages. And then you prosecute the malpractice case to determine whether the basis of the damages is professional malpractice by your prior counsel.
And what are we standing to gain by this?
Well, if, say, the appeal comes down against you and the trial goes against you and you're on the hook for $100 million, you know, total value of the possible development that was put at risk by cancellation of the IGA, yeah, or whatever, some big number. The potential benefit is that if that IGA, the adoption of the IGA and the consequences to the district are a result of professional malpractice on the case on the part of your prior counsel, they are responsible for at least some portion of those damages. So you get cost recovery, damages recovery against them. Really their insurer.
So it's a weak leg, but I think it's a leg we need to keep underneath us. Makes sense.
Well, what is the detriment to us? I mean, the potential that under them asking us to pay for.
So the detriment to maintaining the malpractice case. There's really none. If it was frivolous, or if I learn facts that lead me to believe that there is no basis for the litigation, then there's the possibility of sanctions, which would be you pay the attorney's fees for defending against a frivolous action. But if that happens, I'm going to tell you, and I have an obligation to recommend, actually I have an obligation to dismiss the litigation myself if I find it's frivolous. So right now, I don't think it is. I think the downside is $150 a year.
But if you needed to prosecute this, you would have to come up and actually go through all that because you're not familiar with. how to
Right, I
prove
could,
any
I
of
could,
this.
I couldn't try the case. Yeah, I could prosecute the case today by any means.
So we're just basing it on the fact that she made the claims, that Timmons made these claims, but we don't really know.
I've read them and I've read the complaint and I've read the file. And I have a fair understanding of the underlying facts, and I'm not basing it only on the allegations in the complaint. My analysis that it's not frivolous. But yeah, I wouldn't go whole hog today on the basis of my knowledge. That's technical.
I don't think just based on my knowledge, I'm uncomfortable with it because it's this one board saying that the lawyer that had different people under the board did something wrong based on what we understand they did, but none of the parties involved were involved in. So it's all secondhand information.
Kind of, as far as the parties involved, that's true to the extent that the individuals are different. The parties remain the same.
Right.
The district isn't a going concern, basically.
But if something was disclosed verbally and they knew what was going on, I mean, we're alleging that, but so we're gonna say that the board didn't know, but I don't know if the individuals on the board at that time. I mean, that's, it gets,
Right.
anyway.
Now you're starting to get into, if we keep going any further here, we will be in executive session.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I have a
will
hard
tell
time
you,
with it.
there are reasons. And if you want to go into that level, we would have to go into executive session.
I would feel more comfortable
Yeah.
with that.
But I'm just warning you, right? I'm telling you, careful.
Well, then maybe that's, because that's, I can't, it's hard for me to make a decision when,
And I would also say that you probably need to have Scott here. Would you agree?
It'd be helpful.
Yeah.
does he know more about it?
But yes, and it's nothing on Dylan. It's like, this is complex, but yeah, Scott has a body of knowledge because it goes prior to when Dylan was on board. And I'm just saying, I'm not comfortable talking much more about
That's
this
the point.
at
Okay.
this level.
And there's no obligation for the board to do anything. I understand your perspective, and I think it would be beneficial probably to sort of ratify the filing the complaint, given the circumstances under which it happened originally.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if
But-
we,
But you don't have to.
okay, well, without going into details, like I said, I can't make a decision based on nothing, so I guess it will go off without ratification and you will keep going.
In about 50 days, I'll file.
I don't, yeah. So when we get to the point of needing to do something, then you will, or whoever is the board and whoever is the lawyer at the time, because that was years down the road,
Right.
will have to make a decision based off of
This
even
this
less
board-
knowledge than we have now.
Yeah, this board will not be the board that makes
Right.
the decision whether to prosecute the case.
I will tell you, there's definitely, it's not weak to this point, it's plausible. Everything, it's not a weak frivolous thing. And without having it, that's where I just want to stop there. It's just, it's,
Well, plausible and provable, and like I said, I hear what you're saying.
we can
but-
argue this in an executive session.
Well, we could, but unless we call that, it's not going to happen, so.
Well, from my perspective, this is a pretty cheap insurance policy to preserve the opportunity for a successor board to ameliorate a very, very potential high cost to district residents if we lose.
I think that's a perfectly fair way to conceive of it. You're paying $150 a year to have an insurance policy.
When will you evaluate to see whether or not we meet that point of sanctions and we need to pull it?
I have.
Oh,
Yeah, I've done
okay.
that. That's why I say it's plausible. That's,
Okay.
I mean,
Plausible.
yeah, substantially lacking substantial justification or substantially frivolous are the sanctionable level. You're right.
Okay.
You're well. Yeah. The last thing is not on the agenda except under legal matters. I talked to Scott today about, I sent out the litigation documents update. Scott requested an enlargement of time to prepare the answer brief, which was granted. So that extension of time is to March 29th. Yeah, March 29th, which is a Tuesday. He would like to have the answer brief ready for the district, for the board's review prior to that. But he told me that the best time for him would be the 22nd to present the answer brief draft to the board and answer questions about it, which is a Tuesday. That's why I suggested earlier that a special meeting on Tuesday, the 22nd would be appropriate. At the time, for the limited purpose of talking to Scott about the answer. And now 2 other matters. So it's my recommendation that you notice a special meeting for the 22nd. Or some other day that you all want to hear about the answer brief.
So I may be traveling at a time, but I could do remote, or, I mean, again, all we need is a quorum of 3, right, for the meeting to proceed also, so don't do this on my account, or I could review that digitally and provide Scott my matters via email or something.
So are we on agenda item 14 now, Dylan? Then? Or pushing for new business notifications?
Yeah, I suppose so. I can just transition from legal into that. That's fine.
So, Jeff, so we need to schedule a special meeting for not tentatively, schedule a special meeting for March 22nd, 6 p.m.
Scott will also be traveling, so we need to hear about it.
And then we'll just call it, how do you want to title this for the agenda?
Well, special meeting, it should probably be an executive session, at least for Scott's portion, for purposes of receiving legal advice, specific legal advice regarding answer brief.
Got it. And then we have two, before we go into executive session,
The revisions to the notice of award for the
American.
American proposal, and the I think that we should also discuss the exposition matter. I can get my analysis completed by then.
yeah. So we'll have 3 agenda items. And then also for the next official board meeting, put a placeholder on there for Director Morgan with engineer update.
Yeah,
District engineer.
yeah, the position description, but I'm gonna.
Let's
be
put a
honest, you guys,
placeholder.
let me know what I can help do.
Placeholder under directors matters.
Did you have any interest in?
Yeah, I can bring what I found for the lobbyist at that point too.
Well, the committee from? So
How
it's,
did I miss that?
well, so it's properly noticed, so that's why I didn't want to figure it out.
It's new business, two things were, what happened to the CDM report on this meeting? We're gonna do that on the next one?
Didn't get on the agenda.
No, it wasn't, but Kristen, do we have an update on that? Are we proceeding? Or you want to bring that to the next?
You can put that on the next agenda. We had a short meeting yesterday to just review where they are with everything, and that they had all of the data they require for cross-checking. And then they're moving forward with running the model. I was going to speak with staff and see if there's any other criteria for going from the 7 places on the identified in the wastewater master plan to the 6 that are in their scope for specific review. So if it was just 6 out of those 7, or if staff have another location somewhere that's operationally been an issue outside of those 7 areas that they wanted to substitute in for something instead. But we need to, they're running the model probably this week. They're set to do that now. And then they wanted to know those 6 places to give some specific review. So that's a discussion item. I emailed staff already to review that and help eliminate one of those sites or propose others if needed.
Thank
I'd
you.
expect there'd be some, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I would think there would be a much more of an update ready, or a report even ready for the next month's meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I had another idea. I wondered if we could put on the agenda for next time. I wonder if we can start a dialogue somehow with Denver Water, specifically about contract terms, and seeing if we could, it bothers me, bothers all of us, that we are on this tier 4 service that doesn't guarantee us water. And we keep hearing about how we can grow the city, we can grow our district, and they'll guarantee us another 300 million units of water, and that's not a problem. And there's no upward limit on it. You know, we'll just upsize the pipes and there's nothing wrong there. But meanwhile, they can't guarantee that we will have water at our existing rate. So I wonder if we can start talking to them about what it would take if we could enter into some kind of agreement, conservation pact that would say terms that we'll do, limits that we'll do, that would guarantee us, move us up the tier structure so that we could have some more guarantees of water. And I don't know what that would look like. I would suspect it would have to have something to do with limiting the water users, because we already have so many, we can't, we all know that we don't have an upper limit despite what they say, but it might be a place to have the conversation about the contract. So I'd like to put it on the agenda if anybody is interested. I think it would be a good action item to maybe get a committee around, a citizen committee maybe, and solicit input, anybody who wants to work on it, and have a board member work with, and I'm nominating Director Plotkin right off the bat to work with Denver Water. And get somebody to work on that.
Okay.
Do you want to put it on the agenda to talk about whether or not you want to do it? Do you want to solicit input and to have people? We haven't done a committee, and I'm pretty strongly feeling that if we want to open it up to people, that we have to do like applications and not just, you know, if there's enough people that want to do it, they should all be considered, is my point, and not just nominate one person out of the 3 who are interested.
It's in the bylaws, shows you how to set up a committee, so.
I don't think it, maybe
It has some general guidelines to develop a committee with the constituents.
Okay.
Doesn't it?
I think it has a director committee in there.
Yes, it has citizens.
Okay. So notice it and come for next time if you're interested.
Is that the April meeting?
April meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a small swing at it, just start trying to get the committee, or, you know.
Yeah. Just
That
to
could turn
generate
into an
ideas.
all-night, 6-hour.
That we can't do it in the meetings. That'll be a long-term process to talk to Denver Water.
It's a good thing to kick off, but yeah, maybe look at the formation of the committee and, you know,
Okay.
find out, ask people in public comment, you know, solicit on the website.
What can we solicit on? Maybe we can bring the action items to the next meeting then.
Denver Water's philosophy probably is they were supplying so many districts, we can't guarantee everybody water. So if we guarantee Green Mountain Water, it'd be hard to guarantee this district over here the water.
Right.
There's so much. I mean, remember from Mark Twain, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting over.
Yeah. That's true.
Well,
Do you want to bring whatever you think we need to do for next time too?
yeah.
Any other items to add? Notifications for next board meeting? Okay, I'm going to move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Second.
Doesn't matter. Alex is good. Bad Alex.
That Alex.
Discussion. For discussion, call for vote. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, staff. Good job. Welcome aboard, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you for having me.